Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. How's everyone doing? Just let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, new PC, so stream, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully everything's working fine. And yeah, hopefully the microphone issues are also long gone. But let me know if there's anything wrong. Awesome. Yeah, sweet. Um, okay, cool. Yeah, it's an early start today. I'm not working on sheet today, so yeah, we can definitely get the stream going. This is the draft that I have right now. It's the same as my team selection video. I thought actually what I could do at the start is maybe go through different wildcard drafts that I've been actually working with. Um, and then we'll just discuss the strategies in terms of wildcard. Yeah, Bowen to DCL is pretty much a forced move because this is already tripled up on Brighton. Can't, I guess you could go Evan Nilsson, but we don't rate him. I like Alex Scott a lot, and we'll discuss him too. Um, you're picking up back from X. Why not Ampadu when he doesn't block Senesi, Hill, Tav? I just don't think Hill is that much better than Strauch next week, right? So I think like if I really do believe that, then it's not like I need to have Ampadu in my team or need to have double Bournemouth defense. Why not Petrovic instead of Darlow? I personally think that if you look at the clean sheet odds for Leeds next week, it's actually slightly better for Leeds, right, in terms of the double and therefore the bench boost as well. DCL could do well there without Maguire. To be honest, Maguire has been generally actually. I think Lissandro Martinez is back though, right? So it probably is going to be Yoro Martinez. Uh, I mean, at the same time, I don't feel bad playing Bowen, right? If I can get there. Um, I don't think it's fair to say that Hill has the same DC potential as Senesi because their numbers are still quite different, like season long. Um, I thought it'd be useful if I just this is the graphic that I worked on for the over the international break, which is kind of looking at the baselines of players within the defensive position. So if you can see, like Senesi still has um, better XGI than Hill per 20 per 90. I don't know why I said per 20. Um, so Hill's on like 0 0.04, 0 0.07, 0. Like in terms of his splits for XG and XA. And then he does DEFCON exceptionally, right? He's at 11.00, but Senesi's at 11.8 on a per start basis. So I think Senesi is still quite a bit better on CBITs per start. So the baseline, I would say, for Senesi is still stronger. We do have a smaller sample size on Hill, but I think it's just, not necessary to, I guess, discredit Senesi being potentially better. But yes, thank you so much for the super chat. Dubravka over Verbruggen and two Brighton attack instead. I really don't like it because I still think there's a lot of good value within, first of all, having Brighton this week, right? Because having Verbruggen this week means that you can field a good defense. If you go double Brighton attack this week, you're more likely going to compromise your defense this week. And then I think it's also a huge opportunity cost lost versus Dubravka next week when Dubravka's pretty diabolical as a goalkeeper. So yeah, I just think there's enough attackers I think that are close to the Brighton attackers where you don't have that opportunity cost lost there. Whereas Brighton does serve a pretty important purpose on the wild card from a defensive and even a goalkeeping perspective. But yeah, I mean, if you look at this list here, right, this is not sort of a reflection on points, right? This is a reflection on underlyings. So yeah, I think Senesi is like absolutely exceptional. At the same time, if you look at some of the other picks that we would find to be quite popular on the wild card, Biol's interesting from Leeds, but of course he's been a doubt. Kadioglu, unfortunately, has had some pretty poor underlying stats this season, but he's, I guess, one fullback that's interesting. I haven't included Gusto here, but I've also just seen news that Reece James is apparently running on grass, which is interesting context, because of course he could, I suppose, make it to the game 2 weeks later down the line. I still could buy Hill though, but I think if you look at the baseline test that I've created here, Strauch is still slightly better than Hill. So I think if all else is equal, almost, then I'm just going to go with who I think is slightly better from the kind of clean sheet perspective. And then from that perspective, I think Leeds probably a better team to back. All right, so that's kind of like how I've basically pieced together my defense, if it helps. Gomez on 9 yellow cards, I think, is a problem. Mitoma has no returns, but once again, I'm not playing this game for previous returns, right? So, I mean, Haaland also has had no Premier League returns for a long time now, but that's not going to stop us from going for him on the wild card, right? When was the last time Haaland did something in the Prem? Well, he got an assist versus Newcastle in Game Week 27, but pretty much has had a completely barren run. What's wrong with Minte? I don't really think Minte should be starting, guaranteed. I mean, he could start on the left, and of course, I would look stupid by going for Mitoma on that basis, but I don't think it's really a guarantee. Pedro vice captain? Is that what I have right now? Oh, sorry, yeah. I mean, my vice captain could actually just be Gabriel. I'm actually just going to quickly have a look at some of the chats on Discord, just quickly respond to that. But actually, sorry, I did miss the super chat as well, so let me just quickly respond to that first. Right, so the question was from Hassan. Thank you so much for the super chat. Your wild carding. What would you say about keeping Thiago for this week and buying Pedro for Gimme 33? You already own Thiago in DCL. You have Palmer on wild card as well. Is it worth the transfer? Pro Chelsea, only double game week. Well, I guess your comparison is basically Thiago versus Bowen, right? So I think, yeah, if you think Thiago is similar to Bowen this week, I think it makes sense to go with Thiago. I personally think you don't really need to pre-book the transfer. Like, the reason why I'm going for Bowen is because I think if you look at, let's say, the odds for this week, Bowen actually has some pretty good odds, whereas, like, let's say Thiago, I don't think is that far apart from João Pedro. I'm just looking at, Rob T's graphics right now. He's got Thiago with 0.51 projected goals. João Pedro's at 0.34. Bowen's at 0.4, but then obviously he's got higher expected assists, right? So that's kind of how you'd round out the logic for this week. But yeah, because Pedro's reasonably close, arguably to both of them, I suppose you could just go Pedro. Yeah. Keep in mind, Bowen obviously has percentage chance of getting DEFCON, which actually increases his expected points. And then much higher expected assisted goals because he's now on set pieces like corners, and just generally in open play has better XAG, right? So yeah. So in your case, I think Thiago makes more sense for the world where you plan to keep Thiago the whole way through. So beyond the wild card, and we'll discuss that. Nice to see you, Jay Wavy. Joshua, thank you so much for the super chat. Can you make this with 1.1 in the bank? Would you change any? Oh, sorry, you can make this with 1.1 in the bank. Okay, so you have like a monstrous team. If you have 1.1 in the bank, my friend, I would actually go Anthony Gordon. Unironically, I actually would do that. Yeah. I would just go Gordon over Mitoma if you had that much money. Matthias, thank you for the super chat again as well earlier. Let's just quickly go through some wildcard drafts, and then we'll look at Discord as well. Right, so a couple things, right? Conceptually, I think, like Strouk, the reason why we're picking him is just nailedness. Like, let's not care too much about it. Van Heck is just an obvious pick. I know a lot of people love James Hill, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think I'm leaving the possibility that I could go out of Gabriel into Hill next week and then leaving that down to chance. Something in terms of looking at, let's say, the expected clean sheets for the next 2 weeks is if we just look at 11FI's projected numbers for clean sheets. Technically, game week 30, the double game week in 33 is just basically the fixture in 33 added with the fixture in 34, right? So if you look at clean sheet chance, it's basically 46% chance for Bournemouth, and then actually Leeds is 39% chance plus 18% chance, right? So that's something to mention. Another thing too is if you carry the Leeds defender going forwards, you're definitely going to have the Leeds defender for Burnley at home. So the advantage of actually keeping a Leeds defender is not only double game week 33, because you're not going to play them game week 32. It's actually it's going to be single game week 35, where you're going to have a better defense than most of the other players who, let's say, are not going to have a Leeds defender or a triple up of Leeds, right? So to me, that's the kind of quintessential advantage of going Strouk over Hill. But if you think Hill is far superior for other reasons, then I get it, right? But I think just from a clean sheet perspective, going for the Leeds defender over double Bournemouth defense makes sense to me. Yeah, so this is obviously what, 57%. So that's quite a significant gap in terms of clean sheet odds, just for you to recognize. But going back to the draft, right? Structure wise, something I've considered, and this is for the person who is who's got much more money than me. If you can go for Gordon, I would 100% do it, because Gordon is, to me, one of the best picks for rest of the season up until the end, right? Because if you're going to pursue a free hit 34 strategy, Gordon is going to miss Arsenal away, which is his worst fixture by far. You then basically single game week bench boost Bournemouth at home. And then you've got Brighton at home, Nottingham Forest away, West Ham at home, and then even Fulham away, which is not a bad fixture at all. So I think those are amazing fixtures. And so that's why I would legitimately just go Gordon if you're that rich. In my case, if I go for someone like Mitoma or if I go for Pascal Gross, what I will do in 2 weeks' time is after free hitting on 34, I will go Mitoma to Sar or Gross to Sar. And that's the main difference. Whereas I guess you will have the flexibility potentially of maybe making 2 free transfers. So something like, I'm trying to think about it now, but well, actually, sorry, no, we're going to cut down Bowen to DCL, right? So that's the first thing. So you'll have money back in the team. And then actually what will happen is then instead of actually selling Gordon in your position, you will just move Tavernier into Sar later down the line on game week 36. So you actually have basically a perfect team. So that's why I would go with Gordon over Mitoma, even though that actually takes away a doubler for you. I just think for the rest of the season, you're going to have a much better team than myself. Now, because I can't afford Gordon, the complexity of that, I suppose, is if I go Gordon in a draft structure, I have to drop Bowen, which means I go for a Calvert-Lewin draft, which is fine, right? But first of all, I lose the advantage of having Bowen this week, who's probably around 2 expected points better than Calvert-Lewin. Maybe not, to be honest. Maybe more around the range of, let's say... No, I think two is fair, actually. So, no, I don't think 2 is fair, actually. I think, let's just say he's probably 1 expected to 2 expected points, right? Somewhere between that. Models will differ. But that would be like what I have to do to keep Gordon. And then a few weeks down the line, because I have money in the bank in this draft, I think I'm going to look to buy Sar. But the problem that I still have by having 0.9 in the bank is that I can't do something like Tavernier to Sar. So I'm always stuck in terms of, well, I just think I can technically do it, but it would be a bit of a reach. Like if I could do this, it would be ideal. But I'm not sure how realistic it is. Now, arguably, I could just go Hill to circumvent that problem. But then another kind of issue that crops up anyways is you do need Senesi to be a kind of almost like a holder for what is eventually going to be another Crystal Palace defender. So maybe I can just go Lacroix, right? So that's also very tight on cash. But then there's Richards at the end of the day, like if I really want for the double. And then I guess Henderson is also, within reach from a goalkeeping perspective from Verbruggen. So like all this is plausible, but it's very, very tight. If I go on a Gordon structure, I'm not sure how realistic that is. Now, if let's say Biol is uncertain, then that means I kind of have to use the money on Strauch. Obviously, if Good Munson was available, then I probably wouldn't have any of these issues in terms of like tightness of cash. Some people could also go Turkey over Semenyo. I don't think that's terrible as an idea, especially if you're chasing a little bit. The effective ownership would make it worthwhile. But yeah, that's kind of the trickiness, I suppose, of if I was to go with the Gordon draft. Whereas in your position with Money in the Bank, you could do that. Now, obviously, for people who are much poorer, I suppose, you would just start with Calvert-Lewin. Let's just assume that we're gonna not abuse the 2.2 too hard. So you would just do similar moves later down the line, like Mitoma would just be Sar, I think. But you'd still need to cough up some cash, which is, I think, where the problem lies for most managers. In fact, I think most managers will have to consider something like going from João Pedro to Thiago, because that will spit back the money out, right? So in Game Week 35, I think a lot of people will actually move back into Thiago potentially from the João Pedro position so that they can actually afford someone like Sar. And then as far as, let's say, Senesi, then of course he can just be Lacroix, he can just be Richards. Now that's always on the cards for most managers. But yeah, that's kind of, I think, just the general conundrum that most people will have. Now you could obviously just sell Palmer as well, right? So I've gone through all of this whilst wanting to keep Palmer, but when you look at Chelsea's fixtures, I guess you can justify just selling Palmer. It's not like you have to have him, but Nottingham Forest at home, Tottenham at home, even Sunderland away look quite good. And Liverpool in the state that they're at also look like a pretty good fixture. So I do want to keep Palmer, but yeah, I mean, that's, an interesting piece there in terms of who you want to keep. Now, Gordon and Thiago, I think, are the two players where if you can accept a slightly worse bench boost 33, they are, in my opinion, better than, let's say, like Thiago outside of the doubles, just better than João Pedro flat out up until the rest of the season. And Gordon, I think, is flat out better than obviously any of the other midfielders that I have, with the exception to probably Palmer, Bruno, Semenyo, right? Like these two can go. So yeah, those are kind of my overarching thoughts in terms of the wild card. Could you also like go no Nico O'Reilly? Like I think so. And then obviously for people who actually like want to punt against Arsenal, you could just accept that you're not going to go back into Gabriel later down the line this season, right? So I kind of have a lot of money in Gabriel staked in, so I'd lose 0.5. So buying him back could actually hurt my team value a lot, which is why I think I'm more inclined to just keep Gabriel and then just hope that Hill doesn't like really, really outperform massively. And you guys know why I've gone Darlow over Petrovic, right? It's just clean sheet odds. So yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts are in terms of the wild card. But definitely lots of interesting things for people to think about. I think obviously like Senesi to Hill, Bowen to DCL are the most obvious options. Mitoma down to Gross also makes sense. Even just going Diego Gomez is fine too. But you do have to realize that one of your midfielders eventually is most likely going to be Sar in double gaming 36. So you also need to kind of work backwards to think, okay, if I go for Sar in gaming 36, what's going to be impacted for my team? All right, sorry. I've missed probably a couple super chats, so let's just work back with them. Arthur, thank you so much for the super chat. Finally, we're back. For those who can't afford Minte/Mitoma/Gross is Weiffer. I don't like Weiffer that much, and I think we can probably look at his minutes, right? So if you look at his minutes in the Premier League, yes, of course, he starts almost every game, but I think as someone you're expecting to get a lot of DEFCON, and I suppose the irony is he's already gotten more points than some of the other players like Mitoma and Gross for the season. Obviously, Gross was a winter transfer, so it's a bit different. But if we look at, let's say, his CBITs per game, which is actually just this column here, DC. So yeah, of course, there are games where he gets 19. There's games where he gets 14 because his ceiling's extremely high. But when he gets subbed off early, like there's a lot of games where he just doesn't actually hit that kind of ceiling, if you want to put it like that. If we kind of look at minutes, Arguably, you could say that it's because he's been being ramped up as well because he's coming back from an injury, right? So, 64, 70, 76, maybe that's just injury management because, of course, the Nottingham Forest and the Arsenal game were actually sandwiched as like double game week fixtures, but then there was a 1 week rest between these two games. So, if you think he's more of a 90-minute player now, then of course he actually becomes one of the best picks. And so, if you think he's going to basically play 90s, that's going to be the case. But I think if you kind of look at this as like an inference on his minutes going forward, maybe he can get still subbed off like at 70, 76, which would probably make him a little bit worse from the perspective of the double. But he's still a solid pick. Like I think he's not a pick that I would criticize on the wild card, right? If you're basically just looking for cheapness and then you're not trying to deal with a situation like Diego Gomez getting suspended, then Weiffer is still very strong. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts in terms of Weiffer. I think with Gomez, the tricky thing is there a world where I guess Mitoma, Minte, and Hinchelwood could start? I find that just reading a lot of the Brighton predictors that most people think Mitoma is going to be obviously that starting left wing, but some people even have doubts on his starting, like whether he starts versus Burnley. But going forwards, I think they expect him to start. So I guess if you're thinking, okay, 2 to 3 fixtures of Brighton, if Mitoma kind of holds down the left wing position, then you've got two slots effectively for 3 players. If you want to use that argument, otherwise, of course, it could just be three slots for 4 players because Minte's obviously played on the left recently. So yeah, I think with that's my issue with Gomez. Maybe they could even rest him in terms of like not playing him so that he doesn't get the yellow card. Like that's also plausible. So I'd probably skirt past Gomez, but I mean, if you don't care and maybe you have a huge FT cushion, right? Like it could be worth it from that basis. I think if you ask me to choose between Weiffer and Gomez, I'd probably choose Gomez because I think I like to live life on the more dangerous side. Who to bench? Henderson, Dubravka. Who is that Van Dijk? Only Chohol, Gab. Thank you so much, Kalpasar, for the super chat. You were thinking 4-3-3, right? Okay, I definitely second going well back Thiago, João Pedro. Wilson, Bruno, Enzo, Rogers, Lefay. I'd probably bench Lefay there. I'd probably bench, and then obviously Enzo gets benched, right? So it's Wilson, Bruno, Rogers. I think that's solid. And then you're playing. Yeah, I think going double Crystal Palace. Sorry, going double Newcastle is fine because that's still a solid defense at the end of the day. Yeah, that's probably the team that I would go with too. I'd probably play. I mean, I'd probably play Henderson. Maybe hope for some sort of world where you have like a double clean sheet between Newcastle and Palace. It's not exceptionally out there. Arthur says, besides Weiffer, Gomez, who would you choose in the same price range? Oh, we have the same midfielders pick. Scott is really good as well, right? In that price range. Ampadu's not bad as well, like people have mentioned, but as I said, I kind of prefer a Leeds defender to Ampadu, if that makes sense. Scott has actually some of the best DEFCON in the game. So if we kind of look at Scott, right? I mean, we looked at Weiffer briefly, but Scott actually plays 90 minutes every single match, so you can see that, right? He's a 90-minute player. And then if you kind of scroll towards that DEFCON column, very consistently around that sort of 11-point threshold. Now, obviously, he doesn't even get it for 11, so it's like he got it here, he got it here, he got it here, he got it here. I mean, he's basically someone who I would say probably has, more than close to a 50% hit rate, really. Because one of the things, too, is like with Scott, I feel like it would be unfair to judge him as if he was like a 10 because he's not a 10 in the system anymore, right? He used to be playing minutes in the 10. So if you kind of look at historical trends, like his CBIT numbers are not that good, but just for this season alone, especially if you just were to isolate the games where he plays defensive mid, like he's one of the best def corners we have in the game. All right, let me just have a look at chat questions now with a bit more focus. Vice, Bowen, Shirley. Yeah, I mean, it could be Bowen, it could be Holland. It's not a huge difference. Do you think about Gyökeres? It could work out, but then I also think is there a need to kind of maximize his minutes for Sporting as well? What's my thoughts on Welbeck? I really do feel like he's almost guaranteed to be benched one of the games in the double, which means that I'm not so into him. I kind of like DCL and JP more than him, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. Um, I do agree that he has a similar chance of scoring to Bowen this week, though. It does save me a free transfer, but then I also think that arguably I'd also want to not have Welbeck next week. Like, I'd rather have Mitoma or Gross than Welbeck, and then I'd rather have DCL and JP anyways. So in a weird way, that would put me in a position where I would want to use two free transfers, I suppose. Palmer's waste of money is a fair point, but at the end of the day, we've got money, so we might as well use it. Lucas, thank you so much for the nice message. Thoughts on Neto instead of a Brighton mid? I mean, he's solid, right? So I guess that's kind of the same position as a person who actually had more money in the bank than myself. I guess if you have a similar structure, then you can go Neto. I just think Neto is fairly low ceiling himself. Like these are not amazing Chelsea games, and his attacking numbers are not that brilliant. Will there be any more updates regarding BL before the deadline? I don't see how that's going to be the case. Still not convinced on Tavernier. I think that's fair to have that sort of lack of conviction on him. End of the day, I guess Krupi doesn't play all the minutes, so he's still going to have some residual pen share, regardless of whether you think Krupi is like first choice or not. He has decent underlying stats. He has better minutes than some of the other attackers in this Bournemouth team. And he also takes set pieces, right? So set pieces will just give some inherent value towards him. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Tavernier. And he's very cheap. At the same time, I think if you actually think Scott is better than Tavernier, I wouldn't begrudge that. Kabasar says, so Enzo Lefebvre, Dubravkin was thinking Van Dijk. You're thinking to bench Van Dijk. Sorry, did I actually miss something in terms of, I thought you were going to play Van Dijk in that situation. So you were going to, oh, you're playing, oh, right, I see. So you're playing O'Reilly over Van Dijk. Man, I probably would bench O'Reilly. Because you're kind of playing João Pedro anyways. Maybe bench O'Reilly. I don't know. Would I bench O'Reilly over a Newcastle player? Maybe you could actually just bench double Newcastle, play Van Dijk, O'Reilly, Gabriel, and then play Lefebvre, and then you can just kind of like play anti-Newcastle. Because I think if you have a double defense, you might as well play it, right? Which would mean, okay, maybe benching Van Dijk or O'Reilly. But then I think on the flip side, you can just be anti-Newcastle and just go like, play Henderson, for example, play Lefebvre, and then play Van Dijk as well. I think that those are the two lineups that you can go with. And I would just choose whether you want to back Newcastle or not. But I think I'd play Van Dijk. I mean, Fulham just still seems like a really nice game, if I'm honest. Why would you pick Tavernier over Scott? For all the things that I kind of mentioned, right? So, like, still slightly better underlying stats. Well, I mean, not even slightly better underlying stats in terms of attack. He's got pen share. More set pieces, at least, than Scott, too. I mean, he's still had a pretty tidy season so far, Marcus Tav. I mean, he's had 5 goals, 4 assists. Like, he's still a pretty competent player. Everyone's wild card is, I agree, is everyone's wild card is very samey. Ryan, I feel like, is almost like a middle between. I think like Scott, for example, has some really good value with DEFCON for 90. I just think I'd pick Tav over Ryan every time. So then at that point in time, I almost have Ryan as my third Bournemouth pick. Oh, Shivers. Thank you so much for the super chat. You're free at 33, wildcard 35. You've only got one free transfer. Need to buy a playing goalkeeper in 34. Ekitike to Bowen or Gyökeres differential for 32 and 34 a roll. You've got Salah, no Holland. Sorry, I think there's something wrong with my display. on Windows. Okay, hopefully it's fixed. Yep, it's fixed now. Right, so going back to that question, I think if you're looking for a forward this week, like for 32 and 34, I think the forward that I would go with is still going to be Bowen. Just guaranteed minutes. Like with Gyökeres, I think my question is still, I'm just not sure if he's going to play amazing minutes versus Bournemouth. And then also Arsenal's fixture in Game 34 is pretty tough. It's Newcastle at home, right? So I would go with Bowen over Gyökeres. So then your second part of the question is whether you should roll. I do think going Ekitike out makes sense as well. I'm not really confident in Ekitike's minutes now. At the same time, yes, of course, Liverpool have a nice fixture on 34, but we're kind of down on them. I think I'd probably back Bowen to play more once again on 34. Anyways, so yeah, I'm a bit low on Ekitike, as you can imagine, because I feel like even if Ekitike was going to start in 34, he's probably similar to Bowen, but then all the upside that you get is from this week, right? Where if you think Ekitike is going to have managed minutes, like absolutely that Bowen transfer is worth it. Having Salah is kind of what it is. I mean, you're going to wild card on 35, so you might as well persist with Salah. So I would just keep him. Bicycle, yeah, Gabriel's 7.2 million, but I own Gabriel at 6.7. My sell value is 6.7, right? So that just means that I'm going to lose a lot of money buying Gabriel back in the future. Bicycles, thank you so much for the super chat. Your low in team value, would you go Palmer and DCL, Welbeck plus cheaper mids, or someone else over Palmer and get Pedro, Bowen, etc.? If so, who would you go instead of Palmer? I think I would still go with Palmer personally. I would go Palmer DCL. Because I do think the only reason why I'm really going for Bowen in my position is that I have team value, right? I just think it is one of the punts up until the end of the season for me to like utilize. Whereas for most people, like, let's be honest, like, I mean, Bowen could completely flop and I would just look stupid, but for me, it's worth the punt. Whereas if you don't have the team value for it to kind of create this move, you'll probably actually get that value back later down the line compared to myself. Like, I'm going to be one free transfer down because I go for Bowen. You won't be because you have doublers in your team already. And after this week, you don't really care about Bowen. So in your position, I would just easily go Palmer, who I would prioritize in most drafts anyways. And then, yeah, just go with other cheaper forwards and mids to facilitate that, because Bowen is not someone, like, I would be pretty upset if I had to keep Bowen in my team going forwards. So, like, I can see let's say if I have two injuries randomly in my team next week, I would still take probably a -4 to sell Bowen next week, right? If that helps give you like an indication of what I think about going for Bowen. It's very kind of like a luxury move for myself. Deepak, thank you so much for the super chat. How crucial is Semenyo over Sobo or Dango? Have Munoz and Timber in playing 11? I mean, Semenyo for this week alone is not very crucial. I'm assuming that you're going to go with the 3 at 33 strategy because you've already mentioned players like Sobo and Dango. I think that if you're going for a 3 at 33, Semenyo is just not crucial at all. So I would keep players like Sobo, keep players like Dango, who arguably might be better than Semenyo this week. Munoz and Timber later down the line will really help you too. So yeah, I don't think you need to go for Semenyo. How many free transfers do I have? I've got 2 free transfers myself. You don't have enough for Strauch. Would you still chance going for Biol? What other players could you go with if you couldn't really chance on him? I mean, I guess Goodmanson could come back for the double. Feels a bit unlikely, if I'm honest. I know there's James Justin, but I feel like his minutes are very much dependent on whether players are coming back into the team or not. Yeah, I don't know. I think my only kind of point of contention is Justin is actually one of the cheap picks that could work, right? And in theory, I guess if he was going to play and deputize at right center back, he'd actually have really good expected value. Maybe James. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll just recommend James Justin. I mean, when was the last time he didn't start a game? So the last time James Justin didn't start a league game was in game week 17. Yeah, I would go with James Justin, to be honest. Because if Bial has a bit of a doubt, that makes him better as a pick. That makes him more guaranteed, more nailed. Yeah, I would say James Justin's the one that I would go with. Joshua is saying he can afford Bowen over Thiago and Mitoma over Gordon. Oh, like going Bowen to Thiago and Mitoma to Gordon? I think the only thing is like Bowen to Thiago this week is not that amazing. So it's kind of like you then lose a little bit of the value of going for Bowen or like even like a Thiago type pick. Like, why not just go for a doubler at that point? I personally don't mind. Like, for example, if my draft ended up being something like Gordon plus, let's say, just DCL, you know, it could very much be like that. You need this wildcard to go badly for everyone. Cut FD. Yeah, fair enough. We'll look at Discord soon. Matt Duncan, thank you so much for the super chat. You're struggling with DCL versus Welbeck. DCL's been out of form, and I know fixtures can breed form, but if I go Welbeck, what fifth mid do I like? Non-Brighton. I really like Scott. I like Gordon, if you can afford Gordon. I think Ampadu's okay. I'm not in love with him. Those would be the picks that I kind of suggest. And even Ryan arguably is up there too. How many free transfers do I have? I only have 2. If I had no free transfers on the wild card, I would definitely not go with Bowen. I would just go with the doubler. Why Mitoma over Welbeck? The reasons, the minutes of Welbeck during double game. I think generally if Mitoma's fit, which he is right now, he would just he can play doubles because he's already done that before. Like, for example, like if you look at any tight turnaround fixture kind of windows this season, Welbeck has just generally struggled to play 2 games, right? So what's a good example of this? If I looked at the season so far for Welbeck, so when they had a tight turnaround, trying to look at some windows here. Yeah, so when they had a tight turnaround between game week 13 and 14, so that was like a 4-day rest. He started versus Forest, played 60 minutes, and then just got benched versus Villa. When there was a tight turnaround in terms of game week 18 and 19, he was benched for Arsenal, then played versus West Ham. When there was a tight turnaround between recently, of course, Arsenal and Sunderland, or sorry, rather Nottingham Forest and Arsenal, same sort of situation. He was playing the Forest game and then just benched for the Arsenal game. Whereas Mitoma, yes, I think that the problem with Mitoma is arguably he like maybe you could still say, you could still make the argument, let's say, that Mitoma is not first choice. Like if you think Minte's played really well the last 2 games in the league and deserves to keep that left wing position, you could make that argument. But I think if you were to take the argument that Mitoma is still the first choice left wing, when he's had sort of tight turnarounds, he's just played the games. So I'm trying to think what's a good window to illustrate that. Burnley versus Man City. Burnley and Man City are like around 20 and 21. He completed the double there. Otherwise, he also played, or was actually on track to play, the double between Forest and Arsenal, right? So he actually started Forest and started versus Arsenal, but then got hooked at halftime because he got injured in that match, or had too much pain, I think, as far as I understand from Hertzler's comments. So it's like Hertzler would be confident starting Mitoma in an ideal world where he's fit. Whereas with Welbeck, I think there's no ideal world really where you can probably say that he's going to play the double, unless you were going to, I guess, unless you wanted to say, for example, like similar to Milner, where maybe the only reason why Milner and Welbeck didn't start that Arsenal match was because it was Arsenal, right? So maybe now that they're facing teams that are, I guess, a little bit simpler on paper, and require like a different challenge in terms of like physicality, etc., like Tottenham and Chelsea in the double there, then maybe, of course, Welbeck can play the double. So I could be wrong, but I think it's just generally, I have less faith in, if let's say Mitoma and Welbeck were both first choice, and they are, in my mind, who's going to more likely play 2 games in the double and start. Hey, Fran, thoughts on Rodri over Tavernier? I don't really like it. No O'Reilly. I mean, I'd just go Turkey if you could, if you're not going to go for that. Ben Cullen is also suggesting Bowen to DSL move in 33 if you have 4 or 5 FT. There's a difference in playing style, I guess. Conservative is more. I mean, I'm generally much more aggressive than Ben Cullen, of course. I think that much is obvious. Thoughts on shipping Hall out in draft mode to Gusto? I don't think it's really worth it. Because in reality, like if you're thinking about draft, I guess Gusto would win in gaming 33, but technically Hall could smash him in every other week. So draft is all about just getting ones and zeros, right? So there's a sound bug just now. Is everybody having issues with sound? All right, let me just AMS on Discord. I would wildcard that team if you can. Actually, that's a good point. It would be nice to look at the jump, the wave, Brighton predictors to see how many people are predicting for Mitoma to start today. Okay, so 83% of predictors are predicting Mitoma to start. And the person who's not predicted Mitoma to start obviously thinks Minte is going to start. Interestingly, half the predictors think Gomez could still be benched, which means, maybe you're benching him just for the yellow card aspect of things. Obviously, Welbeck is 100%. That's not shocking to us. And Gross is obviously 100%. Kadioglu and Weiffer also on 100%. And Hinshelwood 100% predicted. So yeah, I guess if people want that Hinshelwood punt, there's that. Looking at my Discord chat though. I think it's not okay. I think it's like Lil LV. I think your question was like, is it okay to have £0 for gaming 36? I think it is okay, but generally speaking, like you should have at least 1 to 2 free transfers around gaming 35/36, which would mean that you can either use those free transfers on Arsenal players, or you can just simply use those free transfers on Palace players to go in and out. If you don't have any extra free transfers, I think it's also ultimately fine. Kim, your team. Just having a look at your team is fantastic, mate. Honestly, I mean, like, I could very much end up on your team, basically. Just obviously the difference being like I could maybe have Senesi over Hill, and that's pretty much it, right? I think your team's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with Gross, absolutely none. You're getting second thoughts though. Have you changed your thoughts? You're in Japan at the moment, so you might go Mitoma. Up to you. I think Mitoma is risky. Yeah. All right, so that's it for Discord for now. Let's quickly look at chat. Thank you guys so much for being here, by the way. 571 of you all. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. I've also created a what we've learned video, so I actually wanted to share some graphics in terms of some of the kind of baselines I've been working on. Sound bug just now. Let me know if that still works. Uh, Jale Joa. I hope that's how you say that. Thoughts on Nunez over O'Reilly for the wild card? I just think O'Reilly is that much more effective as an attacking player. I know last time we did this, we got completely destroyed by Nunez, but I just think I would trust the data. And the reality is O'Reilly has actually lived up to it recently, right? It's just, it kind of proves out that it was the right decision. The second best predictor doesn't think Mitoma starts. Yeah, but what does that even mean, though? Like, that's just one person, right? Are we saying, like, I mean, the second's, better than the first? Like, if you want to just go by one person. What's your plan for Bowen Gaming 33? Just to simply sell him. Mitoma versus Hinshelwood. I would personally go with Mitoma, but that's because I think Hinshelwood, like, arguably can be pushed in and out of different positions. So I could be wrong. And then obviously you have to back, I guess, like Hinshelwood's attacking numbers too. Am I certain on Holland captain? Like as a vice, or what do you mean? Thoughts on Cadiola over Van Heck? I would never do that. I think Van Heck to me is priority just because of DEFCON. Cadiola is not that attacking enough to justify going for Van Heck outright as a pick. Am I not worried for not going Thiago? Not really, no. I mean, at the end of the day, like, if I don't go Thiago, I probably don't have João Pedro, right? So I'd be worried either way. You're short on TV, but went DCL over Bowen and Justin over Stroud. I think that makes sense. I plan to use it to improve on maybe a player. I think that's fine, right? Because it's also possible that you could do something like, I don't know. Sorry. Why João Pedro? I mean, he doubles and has some of the best underlying stats. Top right of my screen says, God, I'm so sorry about that. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Welbeck over DCL. I personally just like DCL's minutes more over the double, and that's pretty much it. I also think that the Brighton mid is better than the Leeds mid, if you wanted to make it like a direct comparison, or even arguably like the next best Brighton Bournemouth or the next best Bournemouth midfielder. Double Brighton attack makes more sense because Brighton are better attacking than defending. I'm not sure if that's actually true. I mean, you can say that about almost every single team in the Premier League, right? Because, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know any team on the double who's a better defense than an attack. It would probably be Leeds, if I'm honest, with you. Then again, I really don't think so. Like you can make that argument about the clean sheets about Leeds. You can make the argument about Bournemouth, right? Like Leeds have higher clean sheet odds simply than Bournemouth, and yeah, I just what does that mean? Like you're always going to prioritize attackers. You kind of just have to balance it, right? So the value of Brighton is actually getting the clean sheets this week as opposed to next week, right? So if you go, let's say, if you don't go Brighton defense this week, you have to field players versus Arsenal from the Bournemouth defense, or you have to field Leeds defenders versus Man United away from home. So that to me is kind of like the flip side of things. Why is it saying no sound? I can see perfect sound, but let me know if there's an issue. Hi, Fran. Welcome back. Pick Gross. I think Gross is perfectly fine. Why not taking more Leeds players? I've got triple Leeds because I'm going to double game week 33 with Bowen to DCL. You mentioned Hinchwood in your first drop. Do you think he's good? I think he's a decent differential, yeah. Thank you, Connor, for confirming that. Ampadu and Hill, better than Mitoma and Stroud because I guarantee DEFCON points in 90-minute men. Mitoma's a gamble. Mitoma's a gamble, sure, but Ampadu also has a pretty low ceiling, right? So other than DEFCON, he really doesn't do too much else. So like Ampadu is not going to find himself in situations where I think he's going to get that much bonus. And Hill simply also has less clean sheet odds than Stroud. Stroud is pretty much close to a 90-minute man as well. Like Stroud very, very, very occasionally will play 80 minutes, I suppose, if you wanted to put it like that. But otherwise is pretty much a 90-minute player. Quiet for a bit. Yeah, that's because I literally wasn't saying anything, to be fair. Should I get Esteval in so I can fit in Welbeck? I don't really think that's worth it, but to be honest, like if you think Esteval's gonna get good minutes, like he's a good pick. But I just think you very likely could be picking two players there who could be benched for 1 out of 2 games with a double, which is not really ideal, right? I don't think there's any guarantee saying that DCL's. I mean, Mitoma's bad for expected minutes, right? Because he's actually back fit now. To swap the team Godnat live, I would definitely just do. Oh, so Mayu to Turkey makes sense. I would personally just go Bowen out, right? I would just start with Bowen into DCL because, like, anyways, I'm personally gonna do Bowen to DCL in a week's time, so I don't really see any reason why if you. Or yeah, I guess you could do that as well, right? You could do João Pedro to DCL this week. That could work too. Fran, would you get Rice or Thiago and Wildcard? I personally would go Thiago and Wildcard. Your Wildcard 32 this week, not sure who to get in. I personally would just go Thiago. Unless you're suddenly going for some sort of strategy like free at 33 off of Wildcard 32. If Palmer was to get injured while Enzo is still on his in-house suspension, who do you see stepping into Palmer's role? Well, I think the most obvious kind of test case for this is like look at the team that they played in the FA Cup, right? So Chelsea just simply played Neto, Palmer, Estevao, João Pedro, and then I think they had like a double pivot of Santos, but obviously Lavia would just play alongside. I mean, sorry, Lavia would just be Caicedo in that situation. The person who subbed on for Palmer is Asugo, who's actually a center mid, so not ideal. I mean, I would think maybe Estevao could play in the 10 or even Neto, and then you just have Garnacho playing as well. That would probably make the most sense. But yeah, I think like, I don't know, like it's a bit of randomness. Are you thinking switch? Yeah, I'm definitely doing Bowen to DCL as a swap. Pedro in the 10. You can say that, but to be honest, it seems like Liam Senior isn't really fond of Pedro in the 10, and neither is he, I think, fond of Liam Delap, to be honest. MS, thank you so much for joining as a captain. Yeah, definitely wildcard in your position. The draft that you sent me is like perfectly good. I would just simply go Bowen to DCL or just go Senesi to Hill and then go Mitoma to Gross. If you want to keep the Bowen 1 game week punt, I would just do that. I mean, alternatively, you could just do João Pedro to DCL and you can actually afford that, right? Because the next week you would just go Bowen to DCL. Sorry, Bowen to JP. How many free transfers do I have? I've got 2. Nice to see you around. And congratulations again. FPL Poland, my friend. No free hit and wildcard this game week. Best solution. No free hit. Why would you wildcard this week? No free hit. If you had no free hit, I guess you still want to bench boost, right? I guess you just have to put in a lot of good single game week players. So, I think the defense can be exactly the same. You probably want to go for more Arsenal. Mm. You probably would be going for players like Thiago and Gordon, no free hit, and maybe Bowen as well, right? Uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? So go for players like Sar, Gordon, Thiago. Um, you could maybe also consider just going for. So the only problem that you'll have is you will blank on 34. And how many blankers will you have? I mean, you would have a lot. So maybe you need to consider. Um, yeah, it's kind of difficult. Maybe like going Donnarumma as well. I'm not sure. But that's kind of it. Like I'd construct a team with the best single game week players as possible because the more doublers you buy, the more ruined your team is for gaming 34. So if no free hit and you're wildcarding this week, you're also probably planning to bench boost on 33. Most likely you actually have to just go for as many single game weekers that are just good next week as well. So that's why, as I said, I'd go for players like Thiago, Gordon, etc. You have four free transfers in Fear 33 strat. Does it make sense to punt Welbeck for 1 week and remove him 34? I actually think so because from speaking to everyone who's on the free at 33 wildcard 35 strategy, it seems like you can afford a lot of extra transfers. So if there's a luxury transfer there, I think that's fine. Is my team locked? Mitoma versus Gross is the last thing that I'm considering. What's the actual latest news on Gudmundsson timeline wise? Um, All right, back to chat questions. I'm so sorry. I've just been like reacting to a couple things, couple chat messages elsewhere. How are we doing in terms of chat? Goodmanson could even play Monday. Is that actually the quote? Oh, because I guess like him and Bial are the doubts, right? And then obviously like Rodon and Stack are the players who are likely to be out for longer. Is that what it is? Neto or Mitoma? Why not Hill over Senesi? Um, I just think Senesi has better baselines, right? So I kind of showed this earlier. This graphic in terms of like creating baselines for defenders. This is basically not going to factor in yellow cards, and maybe Senesi's better at getting yellow cards than Hill, which would make him closer to Hill. But yeah, I mean, like if you kind of look at the graphic here, it kind of illustrates that Senesi, I think, is still a better pick than Hill, just based on the season's data that we've had. And Hill, obviously, we don't have that much like historic data over him, anyways. So I don't think it's that useful, I guess, to color in that as well. But you know, based on what we've had so far, I think Senesi is still arguably like deserving of a slightly higher price, maybe not the difference of 0.9 million, but still a better pick, I think, outright. Kashif, I can definitely have a look at Discord. What do I think of the draft that you have? You've got 4 free transfers, 0.8 million in the bank. I do like the team that you have. I don't really like Anderson on the wild card. I don't really think it makes any sense. I think Thiago's also. So I guess like is your idea behind going Bowen and Thiago the idea that you can just wind back these free transfers? Is that what that is? I'm trying to think actually if is there a world where I can afford Gordon plus Hill? Nope, I can't afford it. Nope, can't do that. Like 0.1 off that. Oh, that's brutal. All right. But yeah, sorry, Kashiva. I think that's the only thing I'd really recommend with a draft. Like maybe wind back Anderson into, because you're not going to play Anderson anyway. So like he's just being benched for this week, right? So Anderson might as well just be a doubler. That's it. I think the rest of the draft can stay as it is, and then you can just sell everyone else next week to just, do you know what I mean? Like make, let's say, Bowen or Gordon like other players. I'd probably also sell Virgil as well. I mean, what Virgil on the wild card doesn't really make too much sense. So just bin off Virgil and get a Bournemouth defender there ready for the double. Everything else is fine though. Goodmanson could even play Monday. Yep, agreed. Stir, thank you so much for the super chat. How many points does Bo need to score more than DCL to make your planned FT worth it? He probably needs to score at least more than 2 points. Also, opinions on risking it with Gomez in his yellow card situation. I think it's probably something that's sensible for people who have a couple more free transfers. So, like for example, like if you are in the range of like 2 to 3 and you're not pre-booking anything, I guess that can put you in a pretty good spot. Like I think if you're super low in FTs, like 1 to 2, don't know. As long as you're not pre-booking anything, I guess still justifiable because you're gonna get 1 free transfer regardless. As far as, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that. If you have the money but no more FTs than you already have, what else would you change about the team? I probably would go for a Gordon structure. So I would go for like Gordon instead of Bowen, and then already have the team that I want to have, because then I would kind of commit to not selling Gordon. Or arguably, like I could just you could make Thiago, you could make Bowen Thiago as well, right? Because Bowen to Thiago is basically a commitment to not making the free transfer, whereas by going for Bowen, I am committing to sell them. I think I'm definitely selling Bowen. Gabriel is up in the air for me. Am I concerned about having enough transfers down the line with aggressive moves like booking a transfer now? I'm not that concerned, because at the end of the day, I think there's no world where I want to have like triple Arsenal and triple Crystal Palace. I think I can make do with just having a few less Crystal Palace in the rest of the field, and then maximizing on Arsenal, or just flip it the other way around. If I have uncertainty over Arsenal minutes, like for example, if I don't think Timber's guaranteed to start every game for the rest of the season from 35 onwards or 36, then then spend more free transfers on the Crystal Palace players and then just wind them back a little bit. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that personally. Even if I was to use 2 free transfers next week, I don't think it would put me in the worst shape possible to, I guess, meet the demands of the rest of the season. Albeit I'll probably have a worse game week 36 than everyone else. Hi, Fran, you can't afford this wild card. Should you replace Holland with someone? No. I think I would just do Bowen to DCL and then just chill. Or do Senesi to Hill and just chill. It's kind of weird. Like, have you guys read the Rossinier quote on Enzo Fernandez? It still seems a little bit aggressive. Yeah. What are your thoughts on keeping Mbeumo on the wild card with an aim of transferring out for BB33? I just don't really think it's worth it because like you don't even know if Mbeumo's like 100% going to start or play perfect minutes versus Leeds, and I think at that point, with his recent poor performances and some pretty early substitutions, I just don't think it's worth it. Am I not worried about Darlow's minutes? Not at all. Do you think that either Ekitike or Frimpong start tomorrow? Well, I mean, he's already cast some doubt around Frimpong's availability, right? So I think it's very possible that both don't start. Y'all keep going about Mitoma, Gross, and Anderson. How's no one even mentioning Anderson? I mean, like what, Anderson for the double game week, or what do we talk about here? If funds wasn't an issue this week, I mean, I'd rather just have Gordon at that point. If funds wasn't an issue this week, who would you replace in midfield this week or your team in general? Yeah, I would do Mitoma to Gordon in my team, and I'd probably keep the team exactly the same. That's the only thing that I would change. Hey, Fran, would you sell like a TK this week if you had no free 3 FTs, no wild card on free at 33? Yeah, I'd probably do like a TK to Bowen if I'm honest. Mohammed, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Fran, opted to go template on wildcard, but going Welbeck. Have 6.2 million as the final midfield spot. Not sure who to go for. Maybe like Alex Scott. Maybe. Yeah, like I think Alex Scott is a pretty decent pick. Do you like Gordon as a pick? I absolutely, yeah, do love him. I think Alex Scott would probably be my pick. I did a baseline test as well, right, for the midfielders. Let me just quickly share that with you guys. Let's put that in here. So this is the midfield baseline test that I kind of did, which I'm pretty happy about. So okay, Enzo's obviously a bit fraudulent because you're not certain he's going to play per 90s. Same with Cherky to an extent. Like, you'd probably still pick Semenyo over Cherky just because of the minutes. But Rice is interesting, right, from a single game perspective. So is Gordon. As you can see, Gordon does really, really well here on baselines. So yeah, I quite like Gordon from this perspective. As far as like, let's say other picks, the problem with Weiffer, I guess, is that he could be due for early substitution. So this is not like super iterative, but yeah, like these are some pretty top picks in here as well. Scott, I think I left Scott out on this graphic, but like Mitoma would actually be on this graph as well. If I was a bit more certain about his minutes, like when I created this graphic, but as you can see, obviously Anderson does extremely well, and then Garner's up there too. And Scott is slightly worse than Garner in terms of DEFCON per 90. I think he's at 0.93 compared to the 1.03 of Garner, but he would be up there because Scott actually has like 0.14 XG per 90 as far as I remember, and slightly mediocre XA per 90, but still, like he would be absolutely up here on this list. Gross is interestingly not here because he was kind of not something really satisfied the kind of test because I wasn't sure about adding Gross into this list at the time, but obviously because when I made this, basically I was actually expecting for us to not want to go triple Brighton like on the wild card, so I just kept a lot of players who were popular this season. But yeah, if I was to redo this, I think Gross would be somewhere in that sort of red range, which is still very strong, right? Because when you're looking at valuation of budget, like Stack sits in a very unique spot, so does Garner, relative to how much they cost. So Gross would still do fairly well just by being a red tier sort of pick. Tavernier, as you can see, like has incredible baselines. Even if you were sort of looking at NP, he'd be really, really good. So those are the kind of picks that are still very, very strong. Like regardless of if you were just looking at like no double game weeks, that kind of thing, like just on the single game week path, very, very good picks. But yeah, I'm sorry that Gross, Mitoma, and Scott aren't on this list. That's kind of why obviously my cheat sheet's a little bit more updated. But yeah, that was kind of like when I was doing a bit of a litmus test for when I was expecting Arsenal and Newcastle, unfortunately, to double, which they haven't. But yeah. Play VVD or DCL, clarify, please. I would just play BVD. I think he's got better clean sheet odds. DCL kind of has not great odds to score this match, and that's pretty much it, right? VVD also has a chance at DEFCON. Please, you said about Gordon. I didn't have the funds for Palmer, did Gordon instead, and Gomez to get in Gabriel. That's pretty interesting, actually. I can see that working out. We can definitely rate your team on Discord, Rory. Let's have a look. Is that on the Rate My Team channel? Okay, so you've already used your wildcard in TC. You got one free transfer. You're free at 33. I mean, that's a great team for this week. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Bit unfortunate that Maguire's not available, but you've got a great team anyways. I mean, yeah, honestly, this is the type of team that obviously I'm worried about in terms of like how I'm going to perform against, but it just comes down very much like how do Liverpool perform, right? So best of luck with that. Are we not worried about Mitoma's minutes? I definitely am, which is why I think Gross is the safer play. I mean, let's do a poll actually. Do you guys think I should go Gross? Curious to see what your thoughts are in terms of that. Because I think there's an aspect of like people can't afford Mitoma, so it's like biased, but then at the same time, like you can say that Mitoma is just risky inherently, right? So people are very down on Mitoma for that reason as well. Worth including Gomez in that. Gomez was in that baseline test as well. Please don't be gross. Gross is boring, isn't he? But boring sometimes is best in FPL, which is if you're rank 39, doing like really 39 in the world, that's awesome. You've got one free transfer, thank you, Wildcard 32, but you don't have many free transfers. I do think Wildcard 35 is actually better if you are on a low free transfer path. Yeah, I agree. I think you'd probably want to pursue that. How many transfers do you have after this wildcard? I'll only have 2. Hinshelwood is indeed playing as the 10. Still can't afford this team after replacing Senesi with Hill and Bone with DCL. I'd probably go Strout to James Justin. I mean, how much are you missing here? That's kind of what I wanted to know. I mean, alternatively, you could also go Tavernier to Scott. So that's that. Like those two would be cost savings of 0.4 million each. Mitoma is more of a differential, and Gross is high. I don't think. Surely Mitoma is high risk, high reward, and Gross is not high risk, high reward, right? Like, what's the high reward if you're not good at DEFCON? In terms of Gross's case, because Mitoma, like high risk, high reward, I would say is probably more attributable to, I guess, players who are like slightly better open play threats, right? Okay to leave Pedro out, yeah, because I guess if you're going to go Bowen to Pedro next week, then that's fine. My man's actually rank 39. I mean, honestly, in rank 39, that type of decision is interesting, right? Because if you're basically playing to win the game, maybe going for a different strategy to everyone else who's above you could put you in the best spot possible. Like, I guess even in the worst case scenario, you're probably going to finish top 1,000 in the world. Worst case, but you're in such an elite spot. I do think actually going wildcard 35 could be better. You confirmed your ship strategy, free at 33 and triple captain 36. Bowen in so you can have him in 34. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, for a lot of people who are going free at 33, like Bowen's actually like a very sensible transfer, right? Hi, best strategy to win head-to-head, all chips available. I think just send it on the wildcard 32 because you more than likely have a natural triple captain advantage versus the rest of the field as well. You can't get Bowen even after going Hill over Senesi. Who would you advise to go DCL for, Bowen or Gabriel to Senesi? Then Bowen to DCL next week and get Gabriel back in the week after? Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. Your bench boost 32, Frederick? Yeah, that's pretty interesting. What's your bench boost actually looking like, Frederick? Which is better, Welbeck plus Ampadu or DCL plus Gross? I would go DCL plus Gross. Are you not worried about Senesi being on 8 yellows and potentially missing a game in the double? It's not possible because the suspension period times out before he could get 10. Please, would you be able to review my team on Discord? I think I already looked at the team, Rory, right? I think it's a solid team this week. Like, there's nothing to do. Why no Minte? I just think he's probably second choice, like in an idealistic world in both the wing positions. All right, Gross is actually... The poll is actually a true 50-50, which is very helpful. Thank you, guys. All right, back to the Discord chat. Dream Brother. Oh, Protagonist actually had a question. I'd probably wildcard Protagonist if I'm honest. Dream Brother, your team wise, I'm assuming we've wildcarded already, or am I wrong to say that? I mean, that's a splendid team for this week, right? Even with the auto sub there. Yeah, like no complaints. I would hold Timber because I just think if Timber's ready to start, he'll start. If he's not ready to start, I just can't see him coming off the bench, right? So, usual logic of like that. If you don't like the look of my players' fixtures, okay, fair enough. Can't do much about it, really. We're setting up a bench boost. Uneven votes and 50-50. I think Gross marginally won, right? Because it was like 137. Obviously, round up, round down. I think Gross might have actually won by 1 vote. Why DCL Gross versus Welbeck Ampadu? Well, first of all, I think Gross is better than Ampadu, and DCL is better than Welbeck. Just in terms of like, if you were to think about the minutes in the double, DCL and Gross will definitely play all the minutes. Ampadu will as well, but Welbeck won't be guaranteed to play the double game week minutes. And then Gross versus Welbeck this week could be, obviously Welbeck favored, but then DCL versus Ampadu this week even is also probably DCL favored. So that's already balanced. Whereas I think you win the double game week anyways. So yeah. Because I think Gross is sort of assistive threat and kind of like set piece bonus aspect of like value is very close to, let's say, what Ampadu brings to the table in terms of DEFCON. And then DCL is still also someone we expect to be on penalties, right? Similar to Welbeck in a sense. But if you can get basically what should always be an extra game, I would pick DCL every time. After replacing Senesi with Hill and Bone to DCL, I am minus 1.8 million. Okay, so we have like, I mean, at that point, I would just go Semenyo to Turkey then. Am I wildcarding? Yes, I am indeed. Gross has more avenues to points. Mitoma just seems more like a classic asset. If you had more money, Gordon. Yeah, I would much rather have Gordon, of course. Sorry, I was asking if you would go DCL over Bone this week in order to keep Gabriel, or go Bone this week and go Senesi over Gabriel. Oh, interesting. Sorry. I would personally, I think, go Senesi over Gabriel. Doesn't Brighton have better fixtures than Leeds? Welbeck has been informed. Inform. I don't think so, really, because if you're factoring Leeds, they also have Burnley at home in gaming 35, right? Whereas Brighton probably don't have the better fixtures compared to Leeds, like for the rest of the season. And then, as I said, like I think if Welbeck's not going to turn up for 1 out of the 2 games as a starter, then I think you'd much rather have DCL on the double. BB, Verbruggen, Mavropanos, Dango, Saliba. That's solid. Verbruggen's nice. Mavropanos is amazing, actually, by the way. Dango too. Saliba as well. Am I confident Darlow starting? Absolutely. DCL over João Pedro is fine. If you can go back into João Pedro next week. Why Darlow? I mean, why not? Leeds have better clean sheet odds than Bournemouth in the double. So, like, that's why I would have Darlow as my goalkeeper. I do think Mitoma's worth the punt, but I have to be honest, like, Mitoma could be a stupid pick. I am confident Darlow starting. Trying to go for Inchwood, he's better than Gross Mitoma, if you see my message, smile. If you could guarantee me that Hinshelwood's gonna play 3 games in a row in the 10, yeah, then I guess he is better. But that's kind of my concern. So like I don't really know if that's certain. Like, I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's absolutely nailed? Because I think Mitoma comes back does create some issues. It's like, if you think Mitoma is absolutely nailed, then it's like two positions, three players. Otherwise, it's three positions, four players. Minte could play left wing, he can play right wing. Gomez could play 10, he could play right wing. Henshaw could drop deeper at times, I guess, if they wanted to utilize someone as a 10 instead, or even to give more minutes back to Rutter, who might be coming back into form, if you want to put it like that. Who's better between Bowen and DCL? I mean, Bowen, I think, is just simply a one gaming punt. So I think, of course, I would go with DCL. Like, if that was something you're actually deciding between. Rate your team at 32. Yeah. Okay, Dan, let's have a look at your team here. So your wildcard 32 is free at 33, bench boost 36. Is it better? I mean, it's a better draw for this week, but I don't think it's a better team, if that makes sense. I think Richarlison's like pretty iffy as a pick. I don't love Rogers too much. Everything else is good about it, though. Like, that's a great draft. Another issue that you probably will have is that you're not 100% sure that Timber's going to be fit for this match, right? So I think that's actually pretty concerning to me. You know? I don't think I'd wildcard into Timber right now, is the way that I would see it. And I probably also would wildcard Sar into my team. Like, I'd probably have Sar over Rogers, if I'm honest. I don't know how you see it. Those are kind of my thoughts. And I think for Charleston also, not a pick that I'm absolutely in love with. I think, like, honestly, let's be honest, most people's wildcard's going to look very similar, like protagonist. So if you're 13, 15, like 12, 15, 15, 15 even, it's all the same. Real struggling between Thiago and JP in the wild card. My plan moves leaves me with two spare free transfers giving 35, which I could use to get back to Thiago. Yeah, I think that's kind of like what JP does give you, right? The optionality of going back into Thiago later down the line. I've only got two free transfers, Pokey JCD. Aronson, Welbeck, or Mitoma DCL. Definitely Mitoma DCL, I would say. How many free transfers do you have for the next round, and what do I plan doing next? I just simply plan on doing Bowen to DCL, but there's, I suppose, still an option of going Gab out, Gab in. In press conference, they mentioned that Hinshelwood is fit. No, I agree that Hinshelwood is fit. It's just more about, with Matoma back fit as well. Like, you have more chances of rotating the team, right? You've got all chips left. I personally would go with the wildcard 32, free at 33, sorry, 3 at 34, bench boost 33, triple captain 36 strategy. If I can't afford Stroud, should I take BL? I probably would take James Justin, but you could go BL. Now, there's nothing wrong with price management. I'm pretty sure I'm in a lucrative spot in terms of team value. Hey, Fran, I'm thinking of changing Thiago to Welbeck. Which do you think is a better pick for just 32? Personally, I think it's Welbeck, honestly. It is Burnley at the end of the day. Uh, did I review another Rory team, Rory? I'm kind of confused. I'm pretty sure I looked at a team. Didn't you post your team at 327, Rory? I mean, there's nothing to do if you're the player that has a rolling team basically on free at 33. Or I'm missing something. What to do if you only have wildcard and bench boost left? Well, as I was kind of saying to the other person, I think I'd still plan wildcard 32, bench boost 33, I guess. And or you could wildcard on 30. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. And then just basically get a lot of single game weakers that have a really good 33. So Gordon, Tiago, even arguably Bowen, it works for the strategy because you simply just can't commit on too many double game weakers compared to the single game weaking field, right? And you don't have, like, let's say a free hit, for example, to accommodate for like the differences between like a double and a blank. So is Turkey a good option if you don't afford Semenyo? I think absolutely, yeah. I really think I'd still be very high on Turkey as a pick. Could you rank Brighton mids? Yeah, we could do it. I think Gross and Mitoma are basically like level for me. Like I think there's like a risk to reward thing with Mitoma. Gross is just safer, so Gross is probably the actual #1 pick. Then I would say Hinshelwood, then Gomez, then Weiffer. All pretty close. I don't think there's a massive gap in all of them. I mean, I wonder if there's anyone who's actually considering going no Nico O'Reilly. Is there anyone actually doing that? Is your draft on Discord valid, protagonist? Let's have a look. Super valid, yeah. Super valid. Yeah, I think this wildcard the same. Like in terms of like, okay, sure, you can use a lot of money in this wildcard, but you can also choose not to, and I don't think you lose much value on it. What does Gross's pen share look like? I'd say 5% most games because I would still think that Welbeck takes over him. I also think that Milner might take over Gross, and so at that point, he's probably third in the penalty taking order. And then I think at that point you're saying, okay, if Welbeck and Milner could both get subbed off in one game, maybe in 1 out of 2 of the games in the double, you could have Gross on 50% pen share because you also have to account for, okay, maybe Welbeck and Milner could still play more minutes. You know, watch Hurtsler suddenly start the Forgotten March. Thoughts on taking a hit, Mane to Bowen? You've already used both your free transfers this week. Your bench is Nico, Truffet, Wilson. I think it could just about be worth it as a hit. Henry, nice to see you, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back to President. How are you doing, my friend? You looking forward to next week? How many free transfers do I need for Wildcard 32? It's really up to what you want to go with, right? So if you go with less single game weekers, you just need less free transfers. It's as simple as that is, right? So let's say if you don't go Gabriel, you go for Hill or Senesi instead, and you start with them. That's 1 free transfer saved. If you don't go Bowen, for example, and you go DCL, that's 1 free transfer saved again. But yeah, appreciate that, Henry. What's your chip strategy? Wildcard 32, bench boost 33, free hit 34. Is this wildcard draft significantly better than my current team? There's not much I would really do with your team in terms of upgrades, protagonist. Yeah, I think that's a really solid draft. Like, in fact, I can't really see an upgrade that's needed. As simple as that is. Unless you really wanted to, like, squeeze Palmer into that team, which, you know, I mean, like, it could be stuff like, what? How would you save money? I guess you could probably just drop Gabriel if you really wanted to, but that's up to you. It's a pretty big choice, I suppose. I'm trying to think what would be my non-Nico O'Reilly draft. It seems like most people don't like the suggestion of it, though. What I mean is the wildcard draft better than my non-wild? Yeah, but it isn't much better than your non-wildcard team, but that's not really the point. Like, the point of wildcard 32 is to facilitate the bench boost 33. It's not really to, like, there really is no incremental value this week, I would say. No wildcard, Joel says. Which of these, please? Emmanuel plus DCL, Gross plus JP, Gross plus Bowen. Well, if you have no wildcard, I think I'd go Gross plus Bowen because you don't have... Well, do you still have a free hit, Joel? That's probably the question that I would ask first. Is Biel okay over Strauch? I don't think so necessarily. I'd probably prefer Justin, especially Biel is a doubt. Like, you never know if, like, he's dealing with some sort of injuries. And it's not like Biel's, like, actually permanently nailed. Like, if you look at his fixtures, like, he has been benched on quite a few games. Will I use my free transfer from Bowen to DCL next week? Absolutely, I will, yeah. DCL plus Semenyo this week or Cherky plus Bowen? Bowen to DCL next week, which is better on the wild card. DCL plus Semenyo, I think, is slightly better, yeah. I just think Semenyo will probably give you more peace of mind, right? Cherky is quite volatile as a pick. Beal, Goodmanson, who starts? Probably Goodmanson. I mean, probably both of them, to be honest. Sorry if you answered, but is the point of Gabriel to go a defender on 33? Yeah, I think so. Two things, right? So, in theory, you do want to go back into Gabriel. So, there is an element of if you want to keep Gabriel the whole way through, you keep transfer value on him. You reduce the need for a future free transfer. And you also get the value of having a much better fixture in Gaming 33 compared to what the other competing pick would be, which would be like, let's say, going Hill, for example, versus Arsenal. The alternative, I guess, is if you have even more free transfers, you can just simply go Gabriel out, Gabriel in, and hopefully stay flexible for the rest of the game, like the future game weeks. Would I do Anderson to Saliba? I probably would do that, yeah. What if Bowen over JP this week for the better fixture, then back to JP for the double? TV can't let me. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. How much cash do I have in the bank? 0.2 on the structure. Wouldn't same argument apply to the Bowen pick? Not really, because I think there's no world where I actually want to keep Bowen going forwards, right? Because I think Bowen, if you look at his fixtures for the rest of the season, actually some pretty tough games. So like coming out of the double, for example, coming out of the double, you actually do want to own Gabriel, right? You would have Gabriel for like really good fixtures, but then for Bowen, it's like, okay, Everton at home is okay, but then Brentford away is poor, Arsenal at home is poor, Newcastle away is poor. Like the next best Bowen games leads at home and give me 38. Whereas like if I compared Bowen to Thiago just is probably a better pick outright and then just has better fixtures outside of 33 and 32. So that's the big difference, right? Whereas Gabriel compared to the next best defender, like you're definitely going to go back into Gabriel. You're never going to go back into Bowen. Does that make sense? Like you just wouldn't. You wouldn't buy Bowen back on 35. Basically, all I'm asking is like, if you sold Bowen, would you really want to jump back into Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away? It just wouldn't make sense, right? Because you're taking away one of the good Bowen questions. You can save a transfer by not going for Bowen, absolutely, yeah. But I think that's the value for me of Bowen, right? Like in terms of like going into Bowen now, and it's not like I'm not using a free transfer by going for Bowen now. It's just a wild card. I'm just using a transfer out. Whereas the Gabriel, it'd be in and out, and that's two free transfers. But also, I think on the flip side, it's like if you don't use those free transfers, it's also like it's pretty functional. Hi, Fran. You sent me a PM Discord. Yeah, absolutely. We can have a look at it, Lufrin. Bowen to DCL or Gabriel to Hill as possible if you want Palmer in. Yeah, I think if you want Palmer in, just do Gabriel to... I'd probably do Bowen to DCL. Yeah, I'd do DCL. Because I feel like, to me, going back to kind of what I was speaking to the other question about, it's like, I think Gabriel has flexibility, whereas Bowen is a little bit more tight as a move, right? So if money was an issue, like, I would immediately throw away Bowen from my draft right now. It's not like I really care about him that much. Is Palmer essential? Tough question. I would like to think he is. Yeah, I would like to think so. Like, on this specific wild card, I do think so. Gross. I could still do gross. I mean, the chat wants me to do gross by order of one vote, so we might do that. Thoughts on Hinshelwood? I think he's really solid. It seems like all the Brighton predictors predict him to start, so yeah, I can see the value of him for sure. And he's had good underlying stats, right? Best chip shot with everything left apart from wildcard? Okay, so you have no wildcard. Well, then I think you're forced into free at 33. Because presumably you have a lot of Arsenal, Newcastle players, and even some Liverpool players. So you're probably going to free hit 33. You're going to, I think, set up a natural bench boost in 35, and then you're going to triple captain 36. That's what I would do. I think Hinshelwood's a solid pick, Omar. I hope it works out for you, genuinely. Like, in my mind, honestly, the Brighton picks, it's like there's like 5 of them. They're all pretty good and could do well, but I couldn't tell you right now, like, if it's, you know, so obvious. In my opinion, it's literally just like a little bit like picking a rabbit out of a hat. Like, I've without actually being a magician. I can only afford Gomez. This is risky if he gets a yellow card. I guess who could you let's say he gets a yellow card, could you still make one free transfer to go to Scott? Alex Scott? That's the question that I would ask. Because Gomez is 4.9, right? I know Gross is 5.5, so maybe he's way too far out. But if you actually have a fallback option for Gomez being suspended, then Scott is actually quite a good pick right there. So maybe you could still go for Gomez. Was Hinchwood ever considered for me? Yes. I mean, I have a small difficulty with picking Hinshelwood. Like, obviously, the underlying stats have been absolutely brilliant, but it's really tricky to say, okay, I have a lot of confidence because some player has a really good run of like 5 stretches of games, if that makes sense. Like, that's not iterative of that much. So, yeah. Scott could be better than Tav. But, you know, to be honest, like, I mean, Tavernier has outscored Scott this season playing less minutes, right? Or am I crazy to say that? I still think Tav is better. Am I crazy for having both Cherky and Semenyo? I don't think you're crazy at all. In fact, I think it makes sense. Like, I think Cherky is like the 4th Man City pick that I would go with, and I absolutely would have him in my team if I could. Scott had a few games. I mean, Scott's a brilliant player. I'm pretty close to locked. I could still do gross. Personally, I think you could pick Gomez, yeah. Thoughts on Nunez as a third Man City player? I still really like the other picks. I think Nunez would probably be my fifth favorite Man City player if you wanted me to like order them in preference. Scott takes a lot of shots for a quote unquote defensive mid. Like he literally has 0.14 in PXG. Very, very solid pick. Very, very solid pick. West Ham odds have jumped up a bit. Liverpool down, Tottenham down, Newcastle up. Apparently that's Rob T's latest update. So that looks pretty good for the Bowen Vice Captain Express. Let's do that quickly. Interesting. Honestly, I just want to have an attacker, not gross. Okay, I'm so sorry. Right, we're gonna go Mitoma here. If gross smashes us, then you know what? I'm just a stupid person. It's fine. Let it be. Is Gordon a long-term pick? I agree. Yes, Gordon is absolutely a long-term pick. Shall I do Bowen and Gordon this week, and following this week do Bowen to JP and Gordon to Palmer? Ooh, that could actually work out. Yeah, that could work out. Would you wildcard if you only have one free transfer? I'd consider wildcard 35 a bit more strongly if you had only one free transfer. But it's not a massive difference, right, at the end of the day. Like, I still think you can play this wildcard 32 without too many free transfers. Like, you know, all I would do is not go Bowen. I think that's pretty much it. Thoughts on keeping Enzo? I just think Rossinior's quotes are a little bit problematic. I mean, he describes the situation as problematic himself. Yeah, I don't know. It would be upsetting. Thoughts on Evan Nelson? I can't stand him. I can't. Why Palmer? Like, I mean, why not? At the end of the day, he's on penalties. So if he can't play open attacking play football, at the end of the day, he takes penalties. Who's winning the World Cup? No bias. Spain. Diesel Hatchet coming. Scott Defcon is a lock. I like that. Any leaks Brighton lineup? I mean, we're not going to get a leak on Brighton's lineup because they literally play like tomorrow. No. Yeah. Bowen captaincy? Yeah, you could do that if you want to. Am I Spanish? I'm half Spanish, yeah. Hey bro, hope you're doing well. Why Struck before Senesi? You mean before Hill? Leeds actually have better clean sheet odds for next week, and Leeds also have a much better game in Gaming 35, which would be Burnley at home. Wrong stream for you to be watching, Kieran. Why not wildcard? Nah, you can, I think to be honest, like I don't know. I generally think part of the value of not wildcarding is actually just seeking out a different chip strategy to get the maximal highest finish, right? Because at this point, 70% of people probably are going to wildcard. I mean, how many people are actually on a wildcard? From what I could see, it seemed like quite a fair few people. Why Mitoma instead of Gross? Touching grass, basically. Am I going to take out Senesi and bring in Hill? No, of course not. I mean, I'd maybe take out Gabriel and bring in Hill. Why would I take out Senesi to bring in Hill? It doesn't make any sense. I'm confused. Is Ekitike injured? I don't think so, but we still think that it's quite likely that he could be rested. Oratan says, got same as your wild card, except DCL is in. Yeah, that makes sense. And Hill instead of Stroke. That's fine. Is there anything I can do with it? No, that makes sense. What do you mean by mistake? Sorry. Did I say that I would sell? No, I just said that I'm going Strouk over Hill, right? And Senesi's better than Hill. Yeah, I think the advantage of Wildcard 35 is you're definitely going to have 3 to 4 free transfers, is the way that I see it. I don't think Truffet is a good pick. I think Hill's better than him, unfortunately. He is one of the few defenders who's very good, though. It's just that Hill is such a good def conner that it doesn't really matter. Yeah. I asked why Strouk in order of bench before Senesi. Oh, I thought you just meant like Oh, well, I mean it's simply a better fixture, right, for Strouk than it is for Senesi. I'm so sorry. I'm actually the stupid one there. Like I completely misread the question twice or 3 times even. My bad. Maybe Senesi's better. Like I guess he can get Defcon versus Arsenal. Okay. You've convinced me. You've convinced me. Are you transferring Gabriel next week? Optional, leaving it up to just, whether I feel like I need to do it or not. Why Mitoma Gross? Well, I think Gross is nailed for 90 minutes, so you at least don't put yourself in the attacking kind of like you don't put yourself in the situation where you have to deal with it. Seems like a lot of other streamers were extolling the virtues of other weeks for Wildcard. Now they're all on Wildcard. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't really understand why people spend 2 weeks slandering the Wildcard only to Wildcard. Is anyone actually going Hinchelwood? Interventions, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Fran, using Wildcard today. Still got all of the chips, but you've got no free transfers built up. So would you go with Senesi instead of Gabriel this week with Hill? Yeah, I would do that. Sure. Really happy Mitoma 2 goal, 1 assist. That would be nice. I think we need more brightness on your screen. Oh, sorry. Is it like, what do you mean by that? Sorry. It's like too dark. We can make it a bit more yellow, I suppose, with lighting. Is that better? Was I too pale previously, potentially, or Harry is on Hinchelwood? Interesting. Looks like... Oh, the FPL team layout is faded out. That's so weird. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. That's a bit strange. That's hmm. It doesn't have the same sort of saturation that it does in like compared to. I could just try some other tools. One sec. Does that make it worse? Is that better? Or am I like, or has that done nothing? Let me know what you guys think. You're 85K. Would you cap Bowen or go save for Bruno? Probably would still go Bruno. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not going to Bruno this week, you might as well not even go Bruno on the draft, because that kind of just means that team is over the budget. I mean, it's over your budget. It's within my budget, sort of. I'm sorry to say. I'll try fix the brightness later. It's just weird because obviously, like on my screen, it looks like well saturated, and I don't really know like what is going on with my computer. Unfortunately, like, I've got a new PC set up, so I'll have a play with this around next time. I do apologize. Do you think Turkey would still start playing regularly? I do think so. Yeah. I mean, if you kind of look at it, right, like two most important games of their season, around this sort of, like around this sort of time, and they went Arsenal and Liverpool, and he like just started both of those games. And at the end of the day, you're going to go all the way towards the end of the season, probably fighting for Arsenal in that title race. So I can't really see why Turkey would not have good minutes. Anoniz, would choosing Mbemo instead of Palmer not make more sense this week than transferring out in 33 for Palmer? Well, I think the way that I see it is I think Palmer as an opportunity cost compared to, let's say, Bowen versus DCL is much better, right? So I think like what you gain in terms of Mbemo or Cunha if they were going to start versus Palmer is much less than, let's say, the gap between Bowen and DCL. So I don't think so. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Or Danny. Danny. Is it? How would I pronounce your name? Sorry, is it Danny or Danny Gel? Sorry. Calling the Brazil the dark horse makes no sense. It's Brazil. Well, to be fair, Brazil has been pretty bad as a football team for a while now. Yo, boss man, don't have budget for Palmer. 8 mil left. I would just go Senesi to Hill, DCL to JP. Sorry, Bowen to DCL. Hey, friend, true favor Senesi on a wildcard. Who to pick? Senesi for sure. I'd probably pick Strauk over Senesi, but that's up to you. What's the best rank I ever got in FPL? 400 something in the world. I can't remember. Like four. I genuinely cannot. Let me just check my profile. 437, apparently. Gross or Hinshelwood? I'd probably still go Gross, if I'm honest. Why not Calvert-Lewin over Joao Pedro? I'm going to go Calvert-Lewin next week. Bowen's just going to go. Wow, Harry's actually going Hinshelwood. Interesting. Okay. I respect it. Why not Cucurella or another Chelsea defender? Well, their clean sheet odds are actually quite bad for the week, right? So at that point, you're basically saying, okay, if my clean sheet odds are not that good compared to the other picks, and I don't have a good chance of getting DEFCON, then I'm probably just a worse pick outright, right? Because like Chelsea's clean sheet odds like 48% for the two games, whereas Leeds and Bournemouth, and actually, yeah, Leeds and Bournemouth have, well, Bournemouth have very similar clean sheet odds. It's like 46% to 48%, but you know that the Bournemouth defenders will get you DEFCON. Whereas obviously with the Leeds defenders, they've got a slightly worse chance of getting DEFCON, but much better than the Chelsea attackers. And then they still have much better clean sheet odds anyways, because it's like just a much better fixture for Leeds, right? Why are so many people hyping up Calvert-Lewin when he scored one PL goal in the last 10 game weeks? It's not that much hype, right? It's just he just plays a double, and it's a good double, and then he also plays Burnley at home after that. There's not much else that's really great about DCL. Yeah, my team value is decent. I've been I tend most seasons to have extremely high TV, but yeah. Currently ranked 1.5k with the wildcard coming up. Is cracking the top 100 actually realistic? I mean, are you wildcarding? I think if you were actually to go with an opposing strategy, it's more realistic for you to finish higher up because of like the drastic differences in terms of like team composition and stuff like that. Anish, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey Fran, Kelleher, Gabriel, Hall, Riley, Bruno Wilson, Sobos, Lysa, Menyo, Job Pedro, Tiago, Bowen. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean that's a solid team. Would you potentially want to play Sar though? I would potentially play Sar over Wilson, maybe, or maybe Sar over João Pedro. Kind of up to you, but I think it's a pretty good team. I guess you don't want to do that because you're playing Hull. I see. Okay. Yeah, I guess if you're backing Newcastle over Crystal Palace, like the way you've benched makes sense. It's a solid team. I like it. And I guess you're what tilted towards 33 now. If you're allowed 4 Brighton players, would you have Welbeck over Bowen or Pedro? Nope. I probably would have a Brighton defender so that I could then not have Gabriel, I guess. Is Thiago a good punt? Yeah, for sure. Arguably Cunha and Gordon are good punts as well, right? For like same logical purpose, but maybe actually better for permanence in terms of going forwards. Like for example, Bowen I think is always going to be a sell, whereas let's say Gordon and Thiago and even well less so Cunha are probably picks that you can actually keep holding for you know, for going forwards. Start Mukiele or O'Reilly. I'd probably go Mukiele, but I mean O'Reilly is extremely attacking, so you run that risk. Start Mukiele or O'Reilly. I'd probably go Mukiele. You're strongly getting rid of Gabriel on the wild card just for the differential. I totally see that. Also considering Enzo's a third Chelsea attacker. I'm not in love with Enzo because I still think like these Rosenior quotes are super strange. Would you ever consider Scott to increase budget elsewhere? Yeah, but then I also don't know what I would do with the budget, right? Because it's most likely that Mitoma position that I would actually like to change. But then going down to Scott, I don't know what else I can do to improve my team. No one considering Enzo on wildcard. Is he not the best mid for GW33? I mean, he might be. Keep in mind that he's still worse than some of the elite defconners in the game. And then also, I guess, like there are still some good attackers. Like, for example, Brighton picks could still reasonably do, close to him. And I don't think like he's got penalty share anymore, really. Is Palmer Semenyo more of a must-have? I'd say Semenyo is more of a must-have. Don't you like Thiago for long term? Absolutely, that's what I said. Thiago's better than Bowen long term. But the thing is, I am going to do a Bowen transfer. No one considering Palace defender Munoz or Richards thinking instead of Gabriel for budget, then buy him back gaming 35. Well, the whole value of Gabriel is actually playing him this week, right? Whereas I don't think there's much of a value of playing a Crystal Palace defender this week. I've only got 2 free transfers. Thiago over Bowen? As I said, if you don't really want to price in that free transfer, then Thiago is better. Only have 4 million. Would you get Biel or someone else? Maybe you could go James Justin, to be honest, because I guess he also is less at risk. But then, of course, he would sort of get hurt by a back four, I suppose, coming into play. But you've only got 1 transfer. Should I play Gabriel and swap him out of Hill, or should I play Bowen and then sort that? I personally think I would just go no Bowen and keep Gab, because Gab always gives you like optionality, right? Like Gabriel will give you the upside this week, but you may or may not want to sell him next week. Whereas with Bowen, I feel like in most instances you want to sell him. So of course, the less free transfers you have, the less logical it makes sense. Would you cap Bowen? As I said, I don't think captaining Bowen makes too much sense. Like otherwise, you probably shouldn't even wildcard into Bruno if you're not going to captain him this week. You're chasing. Do you like free at 33? I think if you're chasing, to be honest, 3 at 33 is going to give you more of a chance to chase because you're going to have a different team compared to everyone else. But is it a better strategy? I probably would say, like, in my heart of hearts, no. Kelleher to Verbruggen. Feel sideways before Everton at home for Kelleher, but Verbruggen's rising. I can't really see why you'd want to do it if you're not wildcarding. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't do Kelleher to Verbruggen. Is Strauch definitely not injured? No. There's absolutely zero doubts with Strauch. Hello, Fran. I've got a great team to play this week. Got 4 transfers this week. Planning on using the transfers next game week. Could you rate my team on Discord? You could probably just put in the rate your team channel. Who to go? Obviously, we have a members chat as well, which I'm always going to be responding to. I can make top 1K this season. I hope so, David. Appreciate that. Is Chow a rotation risk? I think because Botman had facial surgery, no, but I could be wrong. I think that the penalty order for Brighton should still be something like maybe Welbeck, then Milner, then Gross. So that's my thoughts on that. Why Senesi over Hill? He's got better baselines for everything. I shared this earlier with chat, but as you can see here, actually, regarding saturation, I've taken a screenshot of my team because I want to just see like how bad it looks compared to. See how this like has so much more color? Like this is what I actually see with my team. I don't really understand what I've done to deserve this bad window capture. I mean, I guess that's one way to fix it. HDR settings. Do you think it's like auto HDR? Like what? I've got auto HDR and I've got HDR. But I don't really know how to like fix that or solve that for like what my OBS is spitting out, right? Danny, thank you so much for the for joining as a captain of the channel. Appreciate you. I think that the how would I pronounce Danny? Is that how you say it? Hopefully I got that right. Thank you anyways for joining as a captain. Looks better now because I literally took a screenshot of what my screen looks like, but obviously it's HDR. You are layered under your team now. Very, very smart. Very good call there. Let's unlayer that. Boom. There we go. In and out. White Tavernier first bench. Not a particular reason, to be honest. I guess just an attacker at the end of the day. For example, like if Arsenal score multiple goals, like, you know, Senesi and Strauch, you know, these types of players could actually get into -1, like minus territory, right? Are you not considering more doublers for Nick Gaming on the bench? Yeah, I'm going to do Bowen to DCL. Burnley has weak right-hand side on defense. True. But I'm also going to own the Brighton player for like 3 weeks, right? Wouldn't agree with this wild card at all. Over reliant on double game week. I mean, Pat, if you don't want to play for double game weeks, that's fine then. I mean, like the double game weeks are there to be sort of maximized on, right? Why Mitoma over Gross? To be honest, there's nothing wrong with Gross. I think he's actually probably the best pick, but I just want to be a little bit different. And hope for the best case scenario where Mitoma's going to start 3 games and go crazy. Am I pre-booking transfers? Certainly on Bowen I am. Yeah. The draft makes sense, protagonist. I don't think I'd really touch it much. I mean, obviously, I would like to have Palmer, but that's just up to you, right? Like, there's ways you can get to Palmer, but you don't necessarily need to. Like, obviously, like Gross, etc. Even like Scott, arguably. But if you want to go with that draft, like it works. I just think, yeah, ultimately, you probably want Palmer for the double, so have a thought about that. Sorry, what's your name on Discord, Annie? I can't really see it right now. Oh, it's pronounced like Danielle. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, your J's are like Y's. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. Donnie. Oh, Doniel. Sorry. Doniel? Does that make sense? Doniel, yeah. Thiago or Bone 1 free transfer. I probably would go with Thiago if you like the idea of keeping Thiago. Would you say Welbeck is better than Calvert-Lewin? I don't think so. Minte, I kind of think he's second choice both wing positions. Kashif, I think in terms of your team, I think it's perfectly fine the way that it is. I mean, you kind of have a similar structure once again to kind of like Protagonist, where it's like, I think if you could actually go Palmer, I would personally just go Palmer. And if it means that you're going Senesi to Hill, I would just do that, right? But yeah, if you want to move into Palmer, I think that's fine as well. 4 free transfers is nice, but then you also want to think about, okay, if I save a couple free transfers, I could probably be better placed for a double. As far as Bamikwa, your team, I think it's fine. Because you don't have Ekitike, you're not really going to do a Bowen transfer. You're fine. Pre-book a DCL in? No, I'd probably just keep Thiago if you're going to go for Thiago at this point. Otherwise, I'd just go DCL outright. It's kind of like the weird situation with that, but yeah. Why not Chelsea defender? There's not many Chelsea defenders who like are good at DEFCON. And then their clean sheet odds are not that exceptional. So at that point, like I don't really see what's the value of going for a Chelsea defender. Because it's not like Gusto's like one of the best attacking defenders of all time, right? So do you think Senesi's worth the money over Hill? I don't think he's worth the money over Hill, but I do think he's better than Hill. So if you have the option of going for it, I would go for it. For me, Gross is safer and better than Mitoma, like in you know. But if you want to live in the best world where Mitoma works, then yeah. Why have you poked the transfer Bowen? Because he's got an exceptional fixture this week, and I think it's kind of worth the one free transfer cost. Chalobah's out, exactly, yeah. I think Chalobah and Colwell are still confirmed to be out for this game. If you don't have budget for Palmer, Is Pedro Neto a good option? I don't really think so, if I'm honest. I mean, I probably still prefer Enzo generally. Why not Welbeck? I think he will likely get benched for one of the two games in a double. All right, I think I'm locked into Mitoma. Let it be stupid if it is. Why Schalke over Hill? Better clean sheet odds for Leeds next week. Chat, can someone reply to my message further up? You will only have one free transfer next week, Ethan. Could you rate my team on Discord? Yep. The only problem is because I'm on streamer mode, I can't actually see messages. I think I would just go Ekitike to Bowen, Itsani, and then keep the team the same. I think the team's good. I also think I'd have Wilson over Anderson, and definitely Senesi over Anderson as well, in terms of your bench order. But that's up to you. Ooh, super chat from Hong Kong. Nice to see you, AK126. Wildcard 31. Sorry, plus 33. Is that like a TK for Bowen or start Wilson? I probably would start. I'd probably sell Ekitike to be honest. Roman 7960. Wildcard 32, bench boost 33, one free transfer. Choose two strikers: Bowen, JP, Thiago, DCL. Okay. I'd go JP and DCL. Really, just go for the doublers and hope for the best. Esteval could work, but I really don't think you can guarantee that Esteval's going to play the double, right? Rohit, nice to see you, my friend. Going Hill over Senesi is perfectly fine, honestly. Like, but I personally think that I'd go Gross first and Senesi. But it's up to you. They're all very close. It's like literally semantics. Hill is still a wonderful pick. He literally plays in the same defense as Senesi. So it's like, what really is the worst case scenario in most like 80% of the time they're not going to have massively different holes compared to each other, right? Because the value of a lot of the defense is just like DEFCON and you know just getting clean sheets. So yeah, like those feel like quite homogenous outcomes. Yeah, so I think going Hill is perfectly fine. You'll never lose massively, I think, by not going Senesi. Thank you both for the super chats though as well. Hi friend, do you agree with the moves I want to make on Discord? But aren't you rolling this week, Rory? Kind of confused. Why Mitoma? I just think he's their starting left winger, and it's a nice route towards a pretty differential pick that most people can't get access to. But yeah, I totally appreciate that he could get benched one of the games. Or should I just replace Senesi with Hill and get to Palmer that way whilst keeping Semenyo? I'd do that. Yeah, 100%. Did I miss your super chat, Victor? I'm so sorry about that. Oh, thank you, Victor. I really do apologize. Am I mad going with Gabriel, Bowen, Bruno for Wildcard 32? You got 4 free transfers? No. I mean, are you mad when you have the same 3 players as me? Okay. Plan is to transfer out Bowen, Gabriel before giving 33. I don't think it's wasting, right? Something that I've kind of looked at in terms of like simulations up until the end of the season is like, I just don't think that the free transfers for Crystal Palace are as important as people are saying, because in reality you're spending free transfers to get Crystal Palace players, and you're taking them out. I guess the difference with Gabriel in this situation is you're doing Gabriel in and out, but then and in again, I guess. But then that first in is no free transfer cost. So it's really just, if you think going in and out of Gabriel is any different to, for example, going in and out of a Palace player, and I would like to think that Gabriel is probably better because of the advantage you get in Game Week 32. So yeah, I'm kind of pro Gabriel more so than actually like using free transfers on some of the other players, and Bowen could arguably the same sort of point of logic. Is JP really that good of a pick over DCL? Uh, no, but I'm gonna go with both, basically. I think Ryan's probably the third best Bournemouth mid. So, as you might be able to tell, I don't rate him massively. In what situations would you not wildcard? I think in the situation where you actually want to go with a very different team compared to the rest of the field. So let's say like just from a differential and a risk point of view, you want to go with a different chip strategy compared to everyone else. Like that's one of the situations. The other situation, I suppose, is if you have really, really, really like few free transfers left, and you just think that your wildcard 32 team is losing a lot of value. Like, for example, let's say if I didn't get the chance to go Gabrielle and Bowen, I think my wildcard 32 team would look horrendous, right? Just in terms of like how it starts off. So you're already losing like maybe 4 to 5 expected points compared to what, your rolling team could have been with the free transfer. So if that's the case, then I think, yeah, that's not ideal, right? So that's probably another type of situation as well. But even in those kind of slim cases, like people with 1 free transfer, I think you can operate wildcard 32. It's a bit tight. But if you are sort of moving towards the path of wildcard 35, you kind of just leave yourself with like maximum flexibility, especially around 35 to 38. But is it going to be that meaningful? Hard to say, because as someone who's got a wildcard in 32, you're still going to have 15 players. So it's very unlikely that like the situation would be so bad in 35 to 38 such that you can't field 11 players. It just might be okay. You don't have triple Palace, that sort of thing, or triple Arsenal. Where am I from again? I'm half Spanish. I'm half Hong Konger. I'll definitely be rooting for Spain. Would you go gross to Hinchwood if it gives you money to bring in Semenyo? I probably would. Yeah, consider that. The homie Mitoma's in. No takebacks, by the way. If you guys go Mitoma, don't blame me if it ends up being poor. How much funds in the bank do I have after the wild card? 0.2 in the bank. I'm just gonna quickly post my team on Discord. Um, Weiffer or Milner, can't decide. I'd probably go Weiffer because I think there's a pretty high chance that Milner might not be able to play the double, just in terms of fitness and managing minutes. What's your plan for transfer for GW33? Just simply a Bowen to DCL move. Is double Bournemouth defense a good idea? Yeah, of course it is. Hi, Fran. Would you go Gabriel or Senesi with 5 free transfers? Is the price difference on Gabriel too big, or is Senesi a must? I think Senesi's fine. I don't really know what your price difference is, right? Because it's different for all sorts of players. Like, for example, I got Gabriel pretty early. So if you want to look at like my price difference, I'll just let you know. I bought Gabriel at 6.3. So my sell value on Gabriel is 6.7. So that also means that my current price on Gabriel is 7.2, right? Which means that I would lose 0.5 of sellable value if I was to sell him. And I wouldn't be able to gain that back later down the line. Does that complicate moves for myself? Hard to say, but it probably makes me want to keep Gabriel. Hope that makes sense. I'm probably going to keep Gabriel. Worth having Rice on Wildcard. He could be interesting, right? So he's similar to Gordon in your position, Kashif. I don't think you necessarily need both, though. Is Palmer not a risky pick because the upcoming difficult fixtures, being a Chelsea fan? I mean, it's like, if you can afford Palmer, I just can't see how it's like a bad idea. Like, he still plays more fixtures than other people if you're on a free at 34 strategy, right? You know, if I had Rice for Gordon, would it be for 1 week? Yeah, it would be for 1 week. Yep. You'd basically just be selling Rice, right? That's why I said it's the same position as Gordon, because if Gordon's your placeholder for Palmer, you can just do that. I think realistically, if you're just looking for a placeholder, it's between Rice, Cunha, and Gordon this week, Kashif. And you can just choose whatever you like the most. Would you have Gordon over Mitoma if I had unlimited money? Yeah, I probably would. 0 in the bank for me with this team. That's really good team value as well. Alex Scott, I think I like a lot as basically, like, I'd go probably Mitoma and Gross as equal, and then I'd kind of have Alex Scott as my next option. And obviously, if I was more rich, I would go Gordon. But it is what it is. Why not Truffet over Senesi? I mean, Senesi is simply just a much better pick than Truffet, right? So if we just kind of look at the baseline test that I was doing, look how highly Senesi ranks compared to Truffet. Truffet is actually near the bottom of this list in terms of the baselines, so like around a 3.18. This obviously doesn't factor in chances of getting a yellow card, but you can see Senesi's kind of a world apart from Truffet. Do you think Hill can lose the starting 11 at some point? No, I don't think that's likely at all. I think Hill's going to keep his spot for sure. I think Hill's like a super easy lock on the wild card. Ryan or Scott? I'd probably go Scott. Tav or Alex Scott? I'd go Tav first. Do you think... Tav or Alex Scott? Yeah, answer these. I'd go Tav, then Scott, then Ryan in that order. Do you think Dango and Chow will start? Well, I think with Botman having facial surgery, Chow should start. Do you think Dango will start? I think Dango should start. Hi, Fran. What do you think of triple city attack? Want to use the FT on an Arsenal defender over an O'Reilly? Yeah, that could work out. If I'm not planning to free hit or wildcard next week, getting Welbeck is a better move than getting Bowen, right? Yes, for sure. 100%. Why don't you save money on Senesi to Hill? To do what, though? Even if I go Senesi to Hill, I can't afford Gordon in my draft. Hi, Fran. Why no Welbeck in your draft? What do you mean by that? Sorry. I'm planning to go João Pedro and DCL. So DCL will be the Bowen spot next week. Had a 4-week punt run with Ryan, and it was not fun. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're overestimating. This is what I was kind of saying when I did the cheat sheet the first time around with Ryan, when he started to like just get permanently nailed. Like, you're still basically taking a massive punt because you have no idea how good the player realistically is, you know? And to be fair, he can absolutely kick on. No Hill. Yeah. I mean, I might go Hill next week if I go from Gabriel, but it's not guaranteed that I'll go Hill at all. Play two of Dango, Rogers, Wilson, Ekitike. I'd go Dango, and I'd probably go Wilson, to be honest. At least he's got nailed minutes, and I don't know. I feel like Liverpool are on a bit of a low. Hi, Fran. DVE underscore CR says, if you're free hitting in 33, who would you say are the best forwards? Midfielders and defenders to buy. You've got 5 frees, no wild card, and you're only blanking players in 34, Dubravka and Hill. Well, I mean, kind of a weird question because I don't really know what your team is right now, right? So it's like are you like? It's almost like I have to assume. I don't know. I think Bowen is still up there as a pick because you're taking away a pretty bad Gaming 33 fixture for them. Like Crystal Palace away seems mediocre. Potentially, let's say United midfielder's okay alongside Bruno. So I'm talking about someone like Cunha maybe, but it's a bit of a stretch money wise. So I think Gordon I still prefer over Cunha. Sobo realistically is still pretty good. I think I'm a little bit lower in Ekitike now. Njai is actually pretty good because Everton once again have a really well. I mean, it's Liverpool at home now, which I guess is a nice game, but yeah, not in love with that. Sar would also just kind of like rise up the pecking order a little bit, but they do really have tough fixtures outside of this week and outside of 36. Like I think Sar is not really someone that you would buy at all up until gaming 36. So yeah, those are the players that I'd be looking at. From a forward perspective, it's kind of clumped. So I think like Thiago's clearly just good, but you do actually get, one of the bad Brentford fixtures in. So it's like Man United away becomes a part of your schedule. Ironically, I think João Pedro is actually quite good in this instance, right? But of course, he does blank in 34, so that's a tricky thing. So yeah, you're kind of restricted, unfortunately, just back to Bowen and Thiago. And well, I mean, I guess if you're gonna go Haaland and still have Haaland in the structure, then Haaland would be up there, and he'd be one of your blankers. But yeah, I think that's also what makes it a bit tricky in terms of the strategy, right? So it's really only Thiago being the main needle mover, I guess, compared to other teams. But yeah, in the midfield, I think you have a lot more choice. Like you got Gordon, Salvo, as I mentioned, and even arguably like Rice. Rice is probably the best midfielder, actually. Sorry, kind of forgot about him. But Hinshelwood is still like very reasonable as a pick. I just think I don't have the same confidence, I guess. Like that we have to just rely on 4 games of Hinshelwood playing in the attacking mid position to say that that's how good he's going to be. Why Danny Welbeck? I just think he'll get benched one of the games to double. Whereas with Mitoma, I think, yes, there's a risk of that happening, but I don't think it makes sense to say that that's clearly the case because when Mitoma's fit, he should be able to play a double game week. And I think he is fit. As far as Gross or Minte, like 100% Gross. I actually just don't think Minte is the same. Why are prices not the same? Do you mean like sell value versus current value? Or what do you mean by that? Gomez over Mitoma could make sense. He obviously has a yellow card suspension risk. Am I set Mitoma over Hinshelwood? Pretty much, yeah. Who do you think is the best pick for the rest of the season except game week 33? Will free hit Anderson, KDH, and Jai. Man, probably just Anderson because he's just so consistent. Who's the best defender to buy for 32 and 34 for us who aren't wildcarding? For 32 and 34, well, it would just simply be an Arsenal defender. Mitoma over Gross is literally just, I don't want to have the same pick as everyone else, you know? Danielle, team review. Danielle, sorry. Danielle, Verbruggen, Darlow, yep, great. Gabriel Hill, I don't love Truffet. I really do think that if you're going to go Truffet, you might as well go a Leeds defender. Van Heck, O'Reilly, Manuel Palmer, Ampadu, Bruno Welbeck, Holland, JP. Yeah, I personally think... I mean, Ampadu's the problem there, right? I would just go Scott. I honestly would prefer Scott and Strauch if you can afford that, than Ampadu and Truffet. But that's my thoughts. A tear shed my eyes. Trust me, I did not cry when I saw Maguire. Sick of him. I pretty much can fit everyone except for Palmer. I mean, Bowman out to DCL. Senesi out to Hill. Stuff like that. Stroud to maybe Biel, maybe Justin. Mr. Flan, I'm planning not to free hit or wildcard next game week. Yeah, Welbeck makes sense. Chow such a goal threat? Yeah, it could make sense. I don't know if they're leggy, quite say, but yeah. Would you go Calafiori? Nah, I think I'd go Saliba. Willie Saliba. What's the reasoning behind Mitoma over Gross? I just want to have a different team than everyone else, and I do think he's still the starting left winger, but it's a punt. Like, it's a complete punt. Literally just a differential in my case. Timber, I don't think is necessarily a sell as long as you have someone who can auto sub, because I don't really see Timber coming off the bench. Would you play Calvert-Lewin over Tavernier this week? Yes, I would. Is Anvai the name? Sorry. Anvai, thank you so much for joining as a captain of the channel. Really do appreciate you, my friend. Hey, Fran, nice to see you live after a long time. Awesome. Why Palmer over other picks like Gordon? Well, he's gonna double, right? First of all, he's on pens. That's pretty much it, really. You're trying to maximize really for the future. I think in a world where you don't need things like Salah, things like Saka, you know, and you can afford Palmer, I would probably just stretch towards going for Palmer. And having the additional fixture makes it worthwhile. So yeah, that penalty is like a good basis. Like, whereas for example, like picks like maybe a Brighton pick or a Bournemouth midfielder pick is probably worse than Gordon outright, even including the double. So that's a bit different to me when Palmer's in the equation. Arjun, thank you so much for the super chat. Thoughts on playing Dango over JP? I think that makes sense to me personally. Yeah. I mean, it's a really good game for Brentford. Could it be better for you to get DCL this week over João Pedro than switch Bowen to JP for GW33? Not really, because I think João Pedro at home is actually a better game than Calvert-Lewin versus United away. But I mean, like, that's I think it's like, okay, if let's have a look at some of the market odds, right? So if we look at what Rob T shared, yeah, Chelsea projected goals is 1.45, whereas the Leeds projected goals is 1.00. So you can kind of see, like, it's kind of obvious that João Pedro is, in theory, a better pick than João Pedro, even though he doesn't have penalties. So that nice to see you around. Remember 15 months. Awesome. Congratulations on that milestone. Sorry, Fran, I meant 3, so start Rogers or Ekitike. Man, I'd probably start Rogers at that point. So, sorry, Fran, I meant 3. Yeah, okay, got that. Strauch over Senesi? You could go with that. I do think actually Strauch is better than Senesi and Hill for next week, and I know people have a hard time believing that, but still. Is there a value in wildcarding 33, free hitting 34, bench boost 35? Yes, some people actually want to do that. The only thing that I'd really say is that, I guess, how confident are you that your Gaming 32 team is that good? Compared to, let's say, what you're going to get in terms of just wildcarding this week and taking whatever, I guess, disadvantage there might be for, unfortunately fielding, let's say, Chelsea players, right? Or even, I don't know, an O'Reilly, for example, this week in defense. That's something to think about. Navadip, nice to see you again. Beginning of the season, hope we finish in top 100. I feel like top 100 is like a bit of a reach, but I'd absolutely love to hopefully squeeze into the top 1,000 if it's at all possible. Obviously, last few weeks have not been the best, but we're working our way towards it. I don't really like Nunes over the O'Reilly on wildcard for rounds. Thank you so much for the super chat, though. I just think O'Reilly just has that much better underlying stats. I feel like the minutes are still there for O'Reilly, absolutely. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. Isn't Ekitike Welbeck better than Bowen? You don't even know if Ekitike is going to start, though. I guess Welbeck could be fine. I'm kind of confused, though, Annie. Like, why are you asking me this every time? I've told you Welbeck is better than Bowen for game weeks 32 and 33. I'm going Bowen because I'm going on a different strategy to you, so I've never mentioned Bowen to you. Rogers to Gross or wait for next week? I would 100% wait for next week. Start Sar or Anderson? I'd probably go Anderson personally. Why not Welbeck? Prefer DCL, which means that I'm going to go DCL next week from Bowen. Post the team and thought process in FPL chat Discord. Sorry, Sally, I'll definitely have a look at that now. Thank you for the super chat, though, once again. Wait, Saleh, have you put your thoughts on the channel? I do like that draft, Bao Binghua. Can't really see the message, Saleh. Have you dropped a message? Am I missing something? Oh, just on the is it just on the FPL chat? Oh, okay, got it. Sorry, I thought you put it in the private chat. Okay, so let's have a look. My strategy is wildcard 32, triple captain 33, and free at 34 as bench boost. Already used up, so only need 11 doubling players for 33. Current team is Kelleher, Van Heck, Munoz, Saliba, Cherky, Bruno, Palmer, Somerville, Gross, Holland, Welbeck. The doubling team in 33 will be... I'm at 1 million ranks, so taking a few punts here and there yet have clear plan and structure. Why are we... Okay, triple captain 33. Okay, I say free at 34. Okay. I guess. All right, True Fate, I guess that's probably just because it's a differential, right? Gross makes sense on that basis. Calvert-Lewin's bench, which is fine. It's kind of an interesting strategy here. Quite like it. I'm just wondering whether Somerville's worth it because it's like well, I think most of the predicted lineups actually do have Somerville playing, and then I guess it's a cost thing as well. Um, that makes sense. Yeah, I quite like it, Sal. Nice to see a different ship strategy as well. You've already bench boosted, right? So that makes sense too. The only thing that I would think about is like since you've already bench boosted, like would you not want a little bit more Arsenal? Because you only have one Arsenal here. Like could you not, for example, just go Raya in this case and then like suddenly change a couple of things within the team? I'm not sure if that's possible. Um, because I feel like what if you just save transfers later down the line to just go Munoz, right? Like, you don't necessarily need Munoz now. Just a thought. But yeah, I think the team makes sense conceptually and yeah, the only other pick that's like a single game weaker that we've talked about that's actually like really solid as well, like might be better than Somerville is just Gordon, but I don't know if you can afford Gordon, so just let me know your thoughts. Um, sorry, I'm just like reading chat now in a different Discord server. It's kind of funny. Thoughts on playing 2 out of 3 of Wilson, Ekatike, and Chow? I'd probably play Wilson. I'd probably play Chow because maybe Ekatike could be like bench, which is not ideal. I'd probably play those two. I feel like Chow's most likely going to be starting, especially with Botman having facial surgery. Bench one of Rogers, Ekatike, Wilson, Shivam. You actually kind of similar of a question, right? I think I would play Rogers and Wilson and bench Ekatike. I know it doesn't sound ideal, but yeah, he might be the one because I'm not really certain about his minutes, especially like yeah, with the PSG game still kind of in the balance for Liverpool. Gross or Hinshelwood or Mitoma? I think that, like, if I was giving someone genuine advice, I think Gross is the safest pick, the most solid pick, right? Then I'd go Mitoma, then I'd go Hinshelwood. I think with Hinshelwood, yes, of course, the attacking numbers in recent games have been really good, but then you can't say that those 5 games will be like what the story of Hinshelwood at the 10 will be like going forwards. And at the same time, like Mitoma still has pretty decent underlying stats. Sure, of course, he's underperformed a lot. But yeah. Ferran's, did I not miss your super chat? No, I think O'Reilly's just much better. I didn't miss your super chat. Um, I just think O'Reilly's underlying stats are so good. If he, as soon as he moves into left center mid in certain games as well, in certain game states, like he's just a much better pick too. So I just think you're kind of praying that O'Reilly just performs really poorly as opposed to just picking Nunez. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as opposed to just like picking the best pick. It's like picking what I would think is like clearly the second best pick and hoping that the best pick like doesn't do well. Sheep locked in. Awesome. Yeah, I do like Rice to be honest. A nice differential for you. Any alternative Palmer? I guess you can go Gordon in that case. DCL versus Welbeck. I think I just like DCL for minutes, but you know it could be wrong. And ultimately Welbeck, you know, as people have said, is a bit more informed. Um, I don't think Ampadu's bad at all. I think he's got a good floor. I just don't quite see like any ceiling with him. I've already accepted the Mitoma, Mitoma hat trick is not happening. But if it does happen, we will be there. Fran, last 6 minutes, don't want to go with Hinchwood. I mean, you've got Harry, right? One of the most kind of universal forces in FPL on Hinchwood. So how could it go wrong? I don't know. I just kind of want to go with Mitoma. What do you think about Justin over Trout? Yeah, Justin's actually really good. I think my only concern with Justin is there a world where he gets benched? I am slightly afraid of Mitoma's minutes, but I think he should be coming back to starting. So that's just my take on it. If you want to get protected minutes, just go Gross. I think he's got the safest minutes for sure. So yeah, Mitoma or Minte. I think I'd definitely go Mitoma. Like I think I'd probably have Mitoma as like my Minte as my like least favorite Brighton mid because I do think he's kind of like second choice in across all positions. But in theory, there should always be a world where he gets back to playing at right wing. How bad is Turkey over Semenyo? I don't think bad at all. What do you think of Triple Leeds defense? I think it's interesting. It could work. The only problem, I guess, is if you're going Triple Leeds defense, like what's your actual outfield defense this week? O'Reilly over Virgil? I'd probably play Virgil over O'Reilly. Arthur, thank you so much for the super chat once again, and thank you for being on the stream so long. Weiffer, Ayari, Gomez, or Milner. Love your videos. Thank you. I think Gomez, then Weiffer, and then the rest, unfortunately, like maybe Milner, then Ayari. Because Ayari's coming back from injury. I don't really know if he's going to keep his spot, like, or get his slot back so quickly. Whereas Milner's actually starting games. I am wildcarding Celebi. Gomez, I still think, okay, there's risk of the yellow card, but I kind of like the upside of it. And Weiffer, just a really good floor, basically, right? And if he plays 90 minutes all the time, then even better as a pick. Lock in, guys. There's 2 minutes left. Please. I'm telling you, if going in Triple Leeds defense, my defense this week will be O'Reilly, Gabriel, and Hill. Yeah, fair enough. Who stands more of a chance at anything, DCL or Tav? I think DCL, but it's close. Avis, please reply Fran Rogers to Gibbs White. I would just roll. 100%. Stream went very quick. Thank you guys so much for supporting. And thank you guys, 500 of you all, for being here. Do subscribe if you're new to the channel. I also put a What We've Learned series up, which I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Hey, Fran, Justin or Goodmunson? Probably Justin, I think, just in terms of guarantees of minutes. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream once again. I think I've streamed for the first time for more than 3 hours, which was actually really enjoyable. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for being such a pleasure to be around. And gonna manage my fan teams now. I guess I'm not gonna wait around for the West Ham lineups because if yeah, I mean if Bowen doesn't start, trust me, you won't want to see me. But you're gonna watch the Masters. Best of luck. And see your Bowen pick didn't do 20 points. If Bowen gets like 10 points, I'm happy. Super happy, of course. Ecstatic even. But yeah, hopefully he gets an assist and we call it a day at the bare minimum. All right. Thank you guys. And that's the deadline done. Best of luck. Just going to refresh the page. The deadline has passed. Yep, looking forward to it. All right. Cheers, guys. See you in a bit.